Hello, and welcome to the tier list video for season 13. I know this is something a lot of people are waiting for. I find it fun to work on. It's nice for me to help me kind of sort my thoughts and my testing results. And I've spent time both in the closed beta, the open beta, and outside of the beta testing builds that have changed, that haven't changed, compare them. Of course, I've done this in previous seasons, and today's video is kind of going over our results. I'll kind of highlight some things I think are important to remember. And of course, as always, remember tier lists, they're just opinions. This is mine. There's never a reason to get angry or up in arms about tier lists. They're really just biases and preferences. And they can tell you about what I value in terms of mappers, but they're not much more than that. So with all that in mind, for people who want to skip all my yapping, I'll have the link to the tier list in the description, and I'll pin it also in the comments. And yeah, you can check it out for yourself if you'd like to. You can make in the comments if you'd like to say what you think I did wrong or I missed. I always learn from feedback, so I'm not really shying away from that. I'd love to hear. And of course, we can just disagree. That's always okay. So with that said, let me put up the tier list over here again. I don't have a plugin for docs to make it dark mode, so I apologize for that. But I try to make it as readable as possible. Again, over here, there's kind of like my usual disclaimer. It says just like hello. This tier list is made with solo play in mind. This is just me saying that tier lists are subjective, bias, preference. They depend on skill and knowledge. This is my tier list, and I do my best to cover based on my experience, my criteria, my values for mappers, for bossers, for everything. I only rank builds that I've tried to some extent, even if only in the beta. Hopefully, I will add videos to most of them. Last season, I wrote that I will try to fill up all the videos, that everything will be having a link, and I didn't manage to do it. And some people sent me DMs asking like if I'm gonna do it. I'm really sorry that I can't do all of them. Sometimes I just miss some builds and I don't get back to them. It is what it is, you know, it's the cycle of the seasons, and I try my best to kind of fill the tier list as much as I can with more and more links. There's more links that will be added. I already released a ton of guides the past like 24 hours. I haven't managed to add them yet as links. I didn't do it, but I'll try to do it before this season starts. Maybe even before this video kind of finishes uploading. So I'll work on that for sure. This tier list is made with softcore in mind. Even though I play hardcore sometimes, mostly in single player, this tier list is made with softcore in mind. If you are a hardcore player, you will have to make some adjustments in order to kind of make it HD viable. And I wrote eye roll here. I think everything can be played in an HD viable way. If it's like a good build, you should be able to make modifications, generally speaking. But again, generally builds shouldn't die in maps. That is the goal, but some builds can feel uncomfortable in HD, and I understand that. Again, tier list made with softcore in mind. Yeah, just because the build is not on this list doesn't mean it's irrelevant or bad. It's just that I either didn't have the time, interest, or maybe I just didn't know about it. I don't know everything, of course. I learn a lot both from my viewers, from people on Discord, and from just general top players that also kind of work on these things. So again, I'm always learning more, and there's always stuff that I can't get to. You know, I have only so much time. I did make some changes from last season, and that's kind of like the last part of the disclaimer. Added notes to relevant builds that are affected by changes, just to highlight things that I think are important to know, and also in case you're watching older videos that are linked from season 12, 11, 10, whenever the videos are from, just so you know what changed. If you're just watching the guide, so you can like watch a video guide and be like, okay, what changed about this build? Here it is, and you'll see it soon. I added a new category of builds I didn't have time to get to, but you might be interested by. So builds that I think are definitely interesting or worth our time, but I couldn't get to for whatever reason. I explained the reasons in the description there. And I removed the mer columns from some categories. They made things look messy. And most people I asked said they're kind of unnecessary, and they're usually shown in video guides as well. So let's continue. I have some notes here for things, just so you know. And I wanted to give a shout outs to Goon. He's one of our viewers and Discord members. Really helped me big time right before recording this video, cleaning up the entire layout of this document. I'm very sloppy when it comes to working with Google Docs. I'm not experienced with it, and he really helped me out. This looks a lot cleaner. All thanks to his work. He did it like really fast, which is super nice. So kudos to him. Again, Goon, if you're hearing this, thank you so much. And yeah, shout out to him for doing all this to help kind of like this look better and more palatable, more presentable for people to read. So again, you have some notes here. People who do want to look through it, they can see. I kind of explain some of my criteria, what they mean, and why I do them the way I do them. And I also give kind of like notes on bossing, my biases, things that I think people should know. Gear costs are speculative, for example. They refer to ladder reset in the first couple of weeks. Not much more than that. The links, they're for useful guides, informations, and demonstrations, with the hopes of filling them out. In case of videos from previous seasons, make sure to check for relevant patch notes. Remember, there are a lot of useful links on the main Discord. I always want to stress this out. The main Pd2 Discord has a ton of useful information. I can fit all of it nicely into this tier list. So if you are looking to play a build, maybe you picked it up from here or you picked it up from somewhere else, don't forget to always check the Discord. It has a ton of useful information. And you can always consult more than one source. There's nothing wrong with doing that. Early bossing, I just kind of explain what I mean by early bossing. Refers to ladder reset when gear is far from perfect. For newer players, the builds that I state in early bossing usually will be more bossing viable. They'll be easier to try. One moment. Yeah, that's kind of like my follow alert. It's been popping a lot, and I actually stopped the recording earlier because of it, because it had like 5 or 6 of them in a row. I appreciate you all for following. I'm just trying to get through the video for now. And I'm not sure how to disable this alert too, so I guess kill me. Alright, let's continue, and we're starting with the Druid class. This is pretty much the first class that I'm working on, or that I worked on. I think I can make it slightly bigger just so we can see the outside properly. So we got leveling path. I tested leveling. I have links here for leveling guide and the 0 to hero walkthrough that I've done recently. Again, remember that we had notes. Druid got nerfed. There's nerfs to Ravens, nerfs to Hunter Wolverine. So always make sure you update things based on the changes. But over here we have a summoner path. I still think this is the most consistent and easy way to level. It's still strong, still viable. And we have here relying on Ravens and later on Bears, paired with an Act 4 Dark Merc that will kind of give amp for the Bears to do more damage. Act 4 Dark Merc with Insight. You can also run an Act 2 now. Early on, he doesn't fall short from the Act 4 guy. Some gear needs that you might want: the safety of this build, the speed in which it goes through. Before, this used to be A in terms of speed. Now it's a little bit lower because of the nerf to the Ravens. Makes it a little bit slower, especially in normal. Later we have early farming. I have 2 builds here that I liked early farming with. There's of course more builds that can do early farming, but these are the builds that I recommend, and they're Summoner and Fire Druid. Summoner in Act Bosses, Corrupted Zones, Keys, and Maps. They're kind of good with the Act 4 Dark Merc. There's safety is A, pretty safe. Summons are good. You attack from range. Versatility can do almost anything pretty much. And we have speed B after the damage nerfs, not insane. Again, we have the notes here. Nerfs from last season, still viable, considerably weaker. That's just to kind of highlight that you should be aware. If you have a video of something that you've seen from previous seasons, just make sure you check the notes. Fire Druid, Cows, Corrupted Zones, and early maps, that's where you can kind of hop in with this guy. I'll add a link here because I actually made a guide for this guy, so it should be here by the time the video uploads, if I'm not falling asleep halfway through. So again, safety a little lower. You don't have as strong of summons. You mostly rely on your Act 2 Defiance Merc to keep you safe. Versatility B can do a little bit less. It's not as good in keys and in doing like Ubers, things like that, compared to Summoner, but he's definitely viable and versatile. Speed B, generally speaking, everybody who farms Corrupted Zones now is a little bit better than they used to, but I still try to compare to the top of speed, which is people like Sorc, of course, that has their teleport, that is kind of like no cooldown teleport from the start. The Fire Druid doesn't get to max their teleport pretty late because they need all the damage they can get, in my experience, early on. So again, not insane. Notes, slight nerfs from last season, mostly performs the same, so I didn't make any big changes here. For early bossing, we have a flurry of early bossers. I've done all these during the closed beta, sorry, and yeah, all of them felt good. Overall, you can see ranks here. I rank Ubers and Declone for early bossing. I don't rank Lucian and Rathman because most people who need kind of like guidance on how to do Lucian and Rathma, they don't do their first kills within their first week. They usually take a little bit more time. These refer to the first like week of kills, which builds are viable, or which builds are strong. Overall, the best results we got in Ubers was still kind of with Summoner. Summoner is still kind of good at doing Ubers. He was so good last season. Now he was considerably nerfed, but still solid for him. But he does need more skill points to do it. Something to keep in mind. You can still do them. You can still level with him and do your own Ubers. Declone, on the other hand, is a lot more difficult with the Ravens taking a big hit. I noted here, no longer good for Declone, doable with much more gear. Wind, kind of the same as last season. It got slight damage buffs. They don't feel super meaningful, but they are nice. So you can do it with Wind. The safety rank for it is pretty low because you're pretty fragile on Wind. You don't have any summons or anything tanking for you, and you do have to stand to cast and do damage. So definitely a downside for Wind. I've ranked the difficulties here again based on my bias, but I've done some demonstrations and hopefully they kind of make sense once you see them. Gear requirements a little high. You need at least more plus skills than you'd need on Summoner to do things like Ubers. Of course, Declone, you need, you need quite a bit more on Summoner than you need on Wind. So there is a push and pull here for different builds. I don't need to go over every single one, but you can kind of see Maulbear and Fury. There they are. Maulbear and Fury Druid both doing pretty nicely in terms of safety. I put Maul at A just because he has worse FHR frames, generally speaking, than Fury early on. That does help having the good FHR of the Wolf. So I gave Fury S. He felt a little bit safer. Declone and Ubers both feel kind of similar to them, with Maul being a little bit nicer in Ubers, in my opinion, just because he gets the damage a little bit faster. Early on, usually having the damage is an issue till you get like a solid weapon. So that's why I ranked Maul a little bit better than Fury Druid. Fire Druid was, at the end of the day after testing all these builds, it felt like the best one to do early declone. If you are the kind of player who likes doing early declone for yourself, Fire Druid was the one we had the most success with. It needed the least amount of gear to do it, the least amount of plus skills. We managed to do one at level, I believe, 32, and then we pushed to level 30 on the stream, level 30 of Volcano. So again, very doable. I note here things that got like slight damage nerfs or buffs. Fury Druid, for example, getting the extra splash now, but losing some damage on Harder Wolverine. So there's all sorts of like nerfs and buffs here. Alright, continuing on to Cheap Mappers, and maybe I shouldn't scroll all the way down here so you don't see the next category. Cheap Mappers over here, one big rune word, a few core uniques, no endgame bisc gear, no GG slams. So these builds, they vary in terms of their currency from like 1.5 high runes all the way up to 6 high runes, in case they are running Infinity. Infinity is usually the highest value rune word that I allow in my testing for Cheap Mappers, just because it's so key to so many builds and so many people make Infinities during the season. I did test a lot of these builds without Infinities as well, though, and a lot of them will perform fine with it without Infinity. So the Infinity is not a must-have. It's mostly just like the range in which I like to test. So again, if you're somebody who runs Faith, I'll be allowing Faith in this category. If you're somebody who runs Beast for Fanaticism, I will allow that. If you're somebody that runs Enigma, that will be allowed. Infinity, right? These kind of rune words, they kind of go well together in terms of currency, and some builds here are cheaper, and I try to take that into account when I rank the builds as well. If a build is like 1/5 of the cost and it just works, that's definitely a point in its direction. So we got the Summoner Bears speed going down a little bit on those. We used to run them with the Act 1 Demon Machine in Season 12. I really like that. That approach got nerfed quite a bit, so if you do want to run Summoner Bears, which is still an okay build, it still does fine. Despite the Ravens and Wolverine big nerfs, it still performs okay, and you can make it either with a Wrath Act 1 Merc or an Act 4 Beast Merc, and you should do okay. For Fury, safety S, speed B, I got overall buffed. It was I placed it in C the past season, same with Maul. They were kind of they got the similar buff where fortified maps are now better, so you can run fortified maps, feel a little bit better in them. Fury also got the changes to its splash damage. Both got slight damage nerfs from Wolverine, so definitely something to take into account. Fire, we talked about it, got slight damage nerfs, still good. Wind, slight damage buffs. It was already good in the past, it's going to be good. Budget mapper always has been. Arc Blast, definitely nice small changes. The buff is pretty small until you get to the end game, sadly, because you need a lot plus skills to reach the old cap of Cold Pierce. So generally speaking, not super changed in my opinion. Still a good build. It was a good build before. Very safe build. Definitely a build I would consider for HC players. For people who are wondering about HC good builds. Let's talk about endgame mappers for Druid now. So we have the Summoners, Fizz. Last season I played this build. I considered it an A tier build last season. I built it, with pretty expensive gear, pretty endgame bis gear. And this season I tested it. It does feel weaker, it does feel slower. Of course, the Demon Machine setup that I was using, considerably weaker. The Forebear setup, in my opinion, is the current best setup. It does use the Den Mother Helm for Summoner, and I think that's currently the best version. From what I tested, you can run it in fortified maps too, or even encouraged to run it in fortified maps. So I would recommend that for people who want to try Fizz Summoner. Again, not dead. It's not C tier, not D tier. It's still good, still viable, just not as strong as it used to be. Not middle of the pack, kind of like in the lower end of the middle pack of builds. Again, I don't really include bad builds in my tier list. If it was bad, I would just remove it probably. Summoner Vines, Safety S, Speed S. It was the same last season. Last season I wrote A, possibly S, because I needed to test it outside of the beta. Now I'm very certain this build is an S tier build. I think this is the best mapping build for Druid now. People who have tried this, they can vouch for how good this build is. People who haven't and are interested, they can always check this guide. It's an incredibly powerful build, very, very strong. Didn't get changed. The only summoner build that was OP, kind of, I don't know if OP is the right word, that like a top tier summon build that was not nerfed. So people who still want to play summons, Summoner Vines is still right here. Druid is still the king. You can definitely try it. Fire Druid was nerfed. I tried it in an endgame setup. Still managed to do the same, not the same, slightly slower times. I didn't get any sub 4-minute maps or anything crazy like that like we used to do. But that might even still be possible. Overall, it still performed very well. The slight nerfs, I wrote slight nerfs, still strong again, because that happened last season too, where people said, oh no, they nerfed Fire Druid, and then it ended up being okay. We got Wind Druid being buffed overall. Didn't feel meaningful enough for it to be better in terms of tiers. I didn't update anything here. The gear costs are low. It performs well, just not in top tier speed. Just kind of more limitation of the build's projectile and like form of delivery rather than the build's damage, in my opinion. We got Arc Blast. Arc Blast, pretty safe, relatively fast. Again, channeling skill. Usually people don't love it so much. It got slight damage buff, but I didn't see any meaningful change when testing. It seemed pretty similar to times on previous season testing. Fireclaw, I give it a B+ here. Safety is A. Fireclaw is pretty nice. It is pretty safe as well. Almost as safe as things like Vines or Fury or Maul. I put it as slightly less safe. I play it as a bear, and also like it kind of relies on either good leech with the right weapon or on LPK, depending on what you do, or on Phoenix, depending on what setup you run. So it's the safety varies on this build. It's more what I'm trying to say. The speed was B+. I wanted to give it an A. I didn't manage to get the times for it. I think it's mostly due to beta limitations. Fort mapping buff felt good. I tried it in fortified maps and it felt pretty good. The damage buff that it got on Armageddon was nice. The problem is this build really does require slams, so to get it to perform very well in the beta is a little difficult. I believe it can be an A. I was just like a little bit hesitant to just give it to him because I didn't manage to hit the times that I usually hit for these for the rank, so that's why it's kind of like a B+ right now. A lot of these B+, A+ situations are very similar to, possibly in live it will be a little bit better. Alright, Fury and Maul overall buffed because of the changes to fortified maps, now giving velocity. Very, very nice for Fury and Maul and just general single target builds. Fury also got the buff to splash damage properly applying. Both got slight damage nerfs from Heart of Wolverine and slight AR nerfs. The AR nerfs are the one thing that I'm actually afraid of. The damage is not really an issue, but the AR nerfs might be a problem. You'll have to kind of figure out how to make up for lost AR, but it should be doable. If you're running Act 2 Merc, you should be fine anyway. So generally speaking, with the right setup, you're not going to feel a big difference. Rabies, always been good. I just not a big fan of this build. That's the only reason why it doesn't have a link. And look at that, we do have a lot of links here set up. Actually, I'm actually doing better than I thought I will. Mostly for the endgame ones, I should record more budget ones. Some of these are recorded during this beta, so I'll definitely upload them whenever I can, or update them. But yeah, Rabies, great build, pretty safe. The only reason it's not S tier is because poison sometimes, you know, depending on what weapon you use, at least if you're not doing the hybrid with Fizz, you're not necessarily putting monsters into FHR, which is definitely a minus in terms of safety. Speed, I put it in A. Some people claim that it's an S tier. I just never seen those videos. In terms, not in terms of KPM and not in terms of clear speed, so that's why I don't consider it an S tier build. But if somebody has them, they want to send it to me on Discord or something, very much welcome to. As for bossing, we have here 5 builds, and I have a little asterisk here, so we'll start with Rabies. Poison Bossing got buffed, possibly stronger than what I have tested. This is mostly due to a change in the patch notes that was given to us. Both poison and magic damage should be stronger on bosses, so this note will repeat itself on every poison and magic damage bosser. I don't know yet what the values are. It's a little bit hard to tell. Also, poison is a little bit tricky to calculate because you have to wait till the entire duration of the poison actually ticks and not reapply the poison, so it's a little bit hard to tell how much better it's going to be, if it's going to be relevant at all. So I'm kind of keeping it as an asterisk. Possibly stronger, might just be what it is. Again, druid builds are mostly very safe builds. They're mostly shifter builds outside of fire druid as a bosser. Again, difficulty varies. We have very easy on Maul. I think that's the easiest entry level bosser. I still think it's strong. I tested it in Lucian, very good. I did Rathman declone with it, and it wasn't really changed much. It got a slight damage nerf, but it should still be doable and fine. So again, very good entry level bosser for people who want to get going into it. Fury as well, great entry level bosser. I think generally speaking, Rabies is a little bit more tricky for newer players to play in bossing, but if it really did get buffed, maybe it's going to be a little bit easier overall. Fireclaw is like Maul, but weaker. That's my general take, outside of Lucian, where it performs pretty similarly. And Fire Druid, just a very challenging for people who want an extra challenge. Definitely a hard one. I personally only managed to do Declone and Lucian on it. I haven't managed to do Rathma in tier 2. So just like keep that in mind, I guess. Could be a skill issue, but it's definitely a hard fight, this one. Alright, let's move on to the next class, which is the Sorceress. And for the Sorceress, I've tested 3 approaches for leveling. A lightning approach, a fire approach with Inferno, and a cold approach with Ice Blast after the change to Firewall, making it no longer the leveling skill. Before I recommended Firewall almost all the time, and now I have 2 options. One is Ice Blast and then Blizzard through the entire campaign, just staying on that and going like that all the way. I put safety in C just because, you know, it's Sorc. If you teleport, you die into the wrong pack. You know, speed is S because it's Sorc, you have teleport. So that's kind of like why it's like that. Ice Blast plus Blizzard for normal. And then you have a chance either to respec in Nightmare or in Early Hell into Meteor. Meteor is just a little bit smoother for Hell because of the fire and fizz damage. Lets you kind of kill almost anything you want. But I managed to go through the campaign with Blizzard as well. So again, this is a solid approach. If you're going to stay on cold anyway, you might as well just stick to Ice Blast and Blizzard. Just kind of like on the side. Again, Sorc Leveling stuff, the video from this season, I tried to upload and update all the things that are relevant and kind of get rid of stuff that are no longer relevant in terms of links. Hopefully I did a good job on that. Early farming, this is fresh out of the campaign farming. We have Meteor. You can do act bosses and keys, farming Andy, Mephisto. You can farm Bale if you want, even though I normally stay away from Bale. You can do keys, which is great with Meteor. You can do corrupted zones a little bit slower. Some options for mercs. Safety, again, safety is mostly due to just being Sorc. You have a very low health pool, even if you don't put almost anything into strength. And you mostly want to get your damage. You don't really get block or a ton of PDR because you need to hit your breakpoints. So again, safety is a little low. Versatility, S, this can kill almost anything. Speed, it's very fast. It's Sorc. You have teleport. We have Chain Lightning, Arcane and Corrupted Zones. We tested this quite a bit. I uploaded a video for this. It will be here in the future, in the near future, hopefully. Again, Speed S. Versatility is a little low, and some Corrupted Zones kind of suck for you. Safety, again, same, just Sorc. It does scale really well into maps and endgame, so that's really nice on Chain Light, and I was pretty happy with that. We got Blizzard here for the cold skill tree, Chaos, Act Bosses, Keys, Corrupted Zones. You can do anything on this. In last season's open beta, it wasn't changed, by the way. Only Chain Lightning was changed here. So Blizzard in last open beta, I showed how to level up with Blizzard and also do all this farm, do your own Ubers, your own Torch. I think it's one of the better openers for Sorc. I know that a lot of people prefer Ice Barrage. This is just a preference thing, I guess. I wasn't a big fan of Ice Barrage, but I really like Blizzard. If you like Ice Barrage, you can use it. Make a tier list for it too. But yeah, fourth one is Hydra. It's a new reworked skill. I should add it here in the notes. Skill, reworked, Hydras. Here's. Awesome. So Hydra now pierces, which is very fun. I tested a little bit of farming early with it. I mostly tested late game. So again, I farmed Endy and Meth and some corrupted zones with it. It did fine. It wasn't super fast, so you can see the speed was a little slower. It felt a little bit slower compared to things like Meteor and Blizzard when farming them. So versatility, I also put it B. It felt like a lot of corrupted zones didn't feel as good. Cows felt pretty good, and Endy and Meth felt pretty nice though. So that was overall nice. For the Hydras. For early bossing, we have 4 options again. We got Meteor, Blizzard, Hydra, so 3 of the options that we have here. I didn't like Chain Lightning for early bossing. I tried it a little bit and I was like, I wasn't very happy with it unless you hit a very nice crafted globe, which I don't want to trust that too much. So I stuck to these. In the end, I went with Meteor, Ubers, got a B. It's pretty solid. It's definitely not bad. If you get a low resistic, you do pretty solid damage, especially with the Act 4 Amp Merc, giving you some Amp, or with any other Amp guy. Act 2 Amp, if you find it, like on a Reaper Stole or something. We got Declone, also a B. Again, a little bit of a tough fight for beginners because you stop to cast and you need to be kind of in range. So it can be a little bit dangerous, unlike the other builds here that you can cast and kind of walk around pretty safely. We'll get to them soon. Safety C because of that reason. Difficulty hard. It's still Sorc, still difficult. Gear requirements high. After we tested it a couple times, it required more gear than a lot of other builds. Could be a skill issue, but that's what we ended up with. Blizzard again unchanged. I think it's one of the better early Uber builds in the game in general. I was very happy with its state. I did early Ubers last open beta on almost like nothing gear. It was very easy. Same with Declone. I think it's a very strong Declone killer. At the moment, I think it's very easy. Drop your Blizzard, and you can just run circles around Declone, basically not taking any damage. Safety is B. It's still Sorc, still low health pool. So, you know, you still have to contend with that. Gear requirements low. We didn't need almost anything to get it done. Very consistent build. Hydras, we tested Ubers. I wasn't super happy with them in Ubers. It felt a little bit sloppy there. A little bit worse than Meteor and Blizzard. Declone felt much better though. Declone definitely felt strong. On par with Blizzard in my opinion. Not better or worse. And it was a little bit harder just because you need to kind of... you need to deal with your Hydras a little bit better in this fight. And you have to maintain your... what's it called? I forgot the name. Blaze. I used Blaze in this fight to kind of... walk around and burn the skeletons, so you need to maintain that also to avoid being frozen. So a little bit harder than Blizzard, but overall definitely solid for Declone. Safety B, again, very easy skill to kind of stay safe with. You drop your Hydras and you just run around. So again, doesn't require you to stand in place and cast. Gear requirements medium, don't require a lot, just need to get a good Hydra Orb or Hydra Staff. Again, Pierce and Clone feels good, Ubers are okay. Firewall got reworked. I'm not sure if the damage was bugged or not. It felt difficult to get the Ubers done, and Declone felt okay. We managed to get it done, but it was still feeling worse than it did before. Before I felt like Firewall was pretty easy to do, so I took it down a tier for this one. Again, difficulty medium, just a little bit harder to aim compared to Blizzard and Hydras, and gear requirements low. It didn't require a lot, but it was definitely harder than it used to. It did feel nerfed then. All right, Cheap Mappers. Sorry, let's scroll less. There we go. So we got Frozen Orb. Again, with the same price range we said earlier. Infinity Skillers, full Towels is optional. And it was pretty solid. We got Infinity Skillers Griffin for Charge Bolt. And let's see, BA. Safety is mostly B outside of Hydras. Hydras felt pretty safe. And I'll talk about why soon. Speed A. for Frozen Orb. It was performing in terms of speed almost the fastest in terms of budget builds. The main issue with it is maintaining your mana. The Infinity, not a must. You can run it also with an Insight Merc before that, so you can kind of walk into it. It wasn't changed, wasn't nerfed. This build is awesome. Charge Bolt, slight damage nerfs, still feel pretty similar. Early on, you want the Infinity, whether you self-wield it, or if you use the new Skyfall weapon, which actually did pretty decently. We tested both. Both of them were okay. Speed was generally around the B tier, the high end of the B tier, but not much more than that. Infinity, Skillers, Griffins, these are your first purchases whenever you can. Enchant Bowsorc, Fire. This build is very, very strong. We tested it last season. I recommended it. It's great for budget. Use the Demon Machine, some Fire Skillers, and Pierce Gear, so it's a lot cheaper than any of the other stuff. You can, of course, add an Infinity on this afterwards, but just having this, you'll already be doing pretty well. You have slight damage nerfs at the top end of enchant, so depending on how much plus to enchant you have, you might feel it slightly nerfed. Otherwise, you'll feel pretty much the same. Enchant Bow, Cold Sorc. So this build is amazing. It's just super strong. You need a Widowmaker and a Nightwing and some Pierce Gear. You know, that's kind of like the base of the gear to kind of get going. You don't need Infinity. Again, you can add that thing later. You don't even need it in the end game, from what I tried. But you're just very, very strong at the end game. Again, slight damage nerfs, but over here you'll still be performing really well. It's a very strong build. I kind of hesitated giving it the S. Again, it's one of those builds that in the beta it's very hard to test because getting Pierce Gear with all the other stuff that you need is very challenging. So again, I'm giving it the S more because I know that it works in live. I tested it in the live version before, so it's definitely strong in my opinion. Chain Lightning, I have a video on it. It's very, very strong. Again, in the budget version, before you have Infinity, it still works. Once you add the Infinity, the Griffin, the Skillers, it feels a lot better. Again, self-wield Infinity is good. Still, despite the nerfs, you can also use Skyfall, and it also performed pretty well. Nova, I tested. It performed really fine. Despite the nerfs, it got some damage nerfs. I didn't feel like the build was any close to getting killed, and it performed really well both over here and also in the end game, batch. Hydras, the only one that got an A for safety. I used a Phoenix Rune Ward in this one, Phoenix and Ember Sworn running an energy shield, and it felt pretty solid. It felt pretty tanky. So that's definitely an approach you can take if you want a little bit safer mapping experience. Definitely something I would try on HC. It was pretty solid. Speed B, again, it kept up with the other mappers. We managed to do pretty solid times on it. Generally, I prefer mapping with Combust and not running energy shield, but I think generally this is like a more budget appropriate kind of setup compared to the setup that I was running that was more end game oriented. Alright, for the end game mappers, we got here Frozen Orb. I tested this last season. I played it. I showed how good it is on my channel daily for a long time. I think I sold 99 on it too. So we played a ton of this build. I did like over 5 million kills on it. I think this build is insanely good. I am surprised it didn't get nerfed. Ormus got a slight nerf, but you don't have to run Ormus on this build. A bunch of items that you can use on this build got nerfed basically. So like Arax got nerfed, Mangson got nerfed, Ormus got nerfed. But you don't have to use any of them on your build. They're not like a must-have. There's a lot of good alternatives to them, and you might be using them this season. So who knows? I still think the build is S tier. From what I tried, the build is going to destroy maps. It's one of the better Sorc builds in my opinion at the moment. Safety A, again, there's definitely some safety issues, but I did do a solid to 99 on it, and we didn't have problems dying in the levels that I was like trying not to die on, at least. So I was pretty happy with it. Blizzard, tested it last season, pretty late into the season. Build didn't get changed really, so it's pretty much the same. Nothing really changed. A little bit of a cheaper cost on it, which is nice. Frost Nova got its range nerfed again. I got a damage buff, but I don't think the damage was a problem on it. It was already doing really good damage. The problem was the range. So nerfing the range again felt kind of like the wrong direction for me. I did test it late into last season, and given the nerfs to it, I can't see it going any higher than the B tier for me. Safety again at the B, just because it was hard to get rid of a lot of stragglers on this build because of the range. So I got shot at often by like archers and things like that in maps with ranged mobs. So that's why it's where it's at. Combust, I think it's an S tier build. I managed to post really good times on it in the past. Build didn't really get changed. Again, Ormus got nerfed, Maxon got nerfed. You can do plenty of setups that don't use any of those items and still do very fine. Charge Bolt got slight damage nerfs. I'm keeping it in the A tier. I tested it in the closed beta and it did pretty fine. Infinity nerfs, even with Infinity, it did fine. So again, I still think it's okay. Nova, I managed to post like 430 times on Nova during the beta in tier 3 maps, I think is great. It's enough to get into my S tier. I know the damage nerfs feel bad to some people, but I think the build is still great. So I'm just going to keep it here for now. Chain Lightning. Chain Lightning got buffs. I had it in B tier last season. Again, damage buffs, they feel very good. A lot more consistent, a lot less stragglers. I have a guide for it. I'll update this to have another link soon. TM. Bow Cold Sorc. I think this is possibly the best Sorc build. It's hard to test in the beta. Again, it got slight endgame damage nerfs. I still think it's S tier. The builds that I consider like the strongest are like Forb and Bow Sorc, and in my opinion, Combust is very good. Like I managed to do very well in Combustion. I don't know why that gets scoffed at by many players apparently. But yeah, that's kind of like what I've seen. Bowfire Sorc is the Demon Machine version. It scales into the end game. It's not as fast in the end game as other builds, but it still does fine. Got slight damage nerfs at the top end, but still it one-shots most things with no problem. Hydra, I tested it. I uploaded a link already to here to my setup for Hydra Combustion Hybrid. You can use it also with Energy Shield, and it's very good. This build is very nice. It's really, really nice. I really like what they did with it. And honestly, if I'd be playing Sorc, I might even be playing Hydra, just because I think it's a cool build. It's a fresh thing to kind of add to the game, so I'm pretty happy about it. Ice Barrage, tested it last season. It does well in endgame mapping. I don't like it till it has endgame gear. Personally, I know a lot of people use it for budget. That's why I don't have it here. But I do have it here. We tested it. It's pretty solid. Again, not the safest build, but does well in terms of speed. On to Tier 2 Bossing. And Tier 2 Bossing for Sorc, it's difficult. It's the hardest class to boss on. So you'll see most of these are like C tiers, B tiers. You'll see one A tier over here. So again, pretty difficult class to boss on, not for the faint of heart. Very challenging. Difficulties, medium and hard for the most part, and gear costs are mostly high. This is from my experience. Again, this might not apply to top-end runners. I don't know why this popped up. I don't really understand how sheets work. This might not apply to super top-end GG runners. They can do it on lower-end gear. But generally speaking, this will track. We have Meteor, good for declone. For Rathma and Lucian, a little bit less. Safety, D, it's a Sorc. Definitely difficult. We got Hydra, got A tier for declone. We managed to pretty much do the skill in the beta. I didn't finish the kill. I was missing, I think, maybe like 8 potions, but I didn't have slams. So obviously, with slams, I think I would do a lot better. Again, this build definitely can do tier 2 declone in this season. I don't think it can do Lucian and Rathma. I've done Lucian kill in the past in single player, and it requires absurd gear that was nerfed since then, so I don't think that it's doable. If it is doable, then yay, but otherwise I don't think it is. I don't recommend trying it. Rathma, same. I don't think it's recommended. Charge Bolt got slight damage nerfs. Still possible, I think, to do these kills on. I give it a B minus again because I think it might be a B, but I'm just unsure before testing. It's hard to test without slams. Just very, very difficult because you lose a lot in that sense. Chain Lightning declone, I think, is solid. I tried it a little bit and it felt pretty okay. Chain Lightning and Lightning both got damage buffs. Despite the infinity nerfs that usually you run during this fight. So overall, I think it might be good. I'm not sure. We will see. Rathma, again, just Sorc. Rathma is difficult. Got some buffs in terms of damage. Got nerfs on some of the gear that it uses. We will see where it ends up. Lucian, I haven't seen anybody do this. I haven't done this myself, and I haven't had the time to try it as well. So I kept it kind of as a question mark. If somebody has done this skill before, I'd love to see it. Not as a challenge, but feel free to be challenged and do it. Blizzard and Bolts, great for declone, felt very easy. I've done this skill, it's pretty good. Lucian as well, pretty solid. I think it's one of the better options for Sorc bossing in season 12 and in season 13. I've done it in season 12. We got Rathma. Rathma is hard for Sorc, doesn't matter what build you are. And we got Bow Sorc, Fire. I've done the declone kill on this. Lucian I haven't done, but like I'm pretty sure it's doable. So I gave it a C rank over there, kind of similar to Meteor. Again, you don't have block, but you do have pretty good damage. And once you have good full pierce, it's pretty doable in my opinion. Very similar to the Bow Paladin Fire version that does a similar kill, but just with better health pool, pretty much, and slightly lower damage. Alright, for Paladin, we have 3 options for leveling. For the people who are asking for Venge leveling, I did try it. I'm just not the biggest fan. I love doing Holy Bolt. So 3 options. We got Charge in normal and then switch to Holy Bolt. This is just to save time in normal if you don't mind using a respec. Slightly faster than the other 2. Or you could go Holy Bolt all the way, save a respec, slightly slower. Or go Vengeance all the way. Again, just save a respec. But overall pretty good. Is slightly less safe than Holy Bolt leveling, just because it's a melee build. Takes some time to build up your resistances, so definitely something to keep in mind. That was at least my experience. I have here the links kind of talking about leveling in general. Over here, early farming, we got 1 moment. Okay, sorry. Early farming, we got Holy Bolt and Vengeance. These are the 2 builds I recommend. There are others. This is the ones I think are good for early farming. They buff the chain on Vengeance, which is nice. You can pretty much farm anything if you're on Holy Bolt. Versatility S. Vengeance also very versatile. Not as good in my opinion at doing key farm, Ubers, things like that, act bosses. Slightly slower on those, but for cows, arcane, early maps, it can hop in. Corrupted zones, it's good in all these, and I'm pretty happy with its current state. Safety again a little bit lower, just so you don't get that free salvation aura you get on Holy Bolt and attacking from range. So again, when I played the HCSSF, I recommended Holy Bolt. I did it. I think it's very, very nice, very safe. For early bossing, 4 options. We have Holy Bolt, Smiter, Charge Fizz, and Fire Bowden. Holy Bolt, just super good. One of the easiest Uber experiences. I think, from generally speaking, when people ask me what's the best starter build if first time playing PD2, in season 12, season 11, I used to say Summon Druid. I think from now on I'll say Holy Bolt. It's a great build. It's versatile. It can do bossing, can do your own Ubers, your own declone. Very strong at it. Magic damage was buffed against bosses. So again, that's a note I said will repeat itself in my notes. Basically, so definitely something to pay attention to. Smiter got some damage buffs. I didn't like it in Ubers. I tried it in the beta and I wasn't a big fan. Declone felt okay. Is not the safest. Again, it's like a melee build early on, so yeah, and you have to kind of pay attention to like your stuns on monsters. I consider this a hard one. I think it's definitely harder than all the other builds I got here for sure. Gear requirements also a little bit higher than the other ones. You need some stuff to get it going. At least from my experience. For Charge Fizz, gear requirements are medium. You just need a weapon that you can charge with. The rest you can kind of slap together, especially this season, since we got a lot of buffs to rares and crafts, so be a lot more flexible in gear. Is not the best in Ubers because you're a melee build, but the ability to use potions during charge is definitely a big quality of life for this build. It will make it a lot easier to play. Gear requirements, medium here, again for the weapon mostly. Fire Bowden, you need a demon machine, pretty much. If you have a demon machine, you'll be okay. You do want like Akira's as well, ideally, to be able to deal with Ubers and Declone pretty easily. But it's a fairly safe build overall for a build with a bow on it. It seems like a meme, but we did it in the beta and it was pretty good. I think I have a demonstration of it that I uploaded from the beta, so I'll make sure to link that as well. Cheap Mappers for Pally, we got Fire Charges, Sacrifice Magic, Sacrifice Fizz, Venge and Bowden. All of these got guides that I think I'm uploading or uploaded the past couple of days. So definitely all this will be full. Again, let's look at the safety. We got B for Fire Charger, mostly because it had worse leech early on and worse sustain. We got Speed B, it had a little bit worse AoE as well. The only reason to play this as a budget mapper is, one, if you just like it. There's 2 reasons, I guess. 1, if you like it, and 2, if you are going to scale into a fire charger, so you already want to build your fire gear. That's the only 2 reasons. Again, use Flame Bellow, Fire LCs, the Dragon Chest, and you can kind of get going from there. You can already start farming without the dragon chest. It's what I have in my demonstration to make it even more budget, but the dragon chest is definitely within the budget of the builds here, and once you get it, it feels a lot better. We have over here Sacrifice Magic. This build was nerfed. There was a bunch of changes done to Sacrifice during the beta, so I'll make sure to note them here. Sacrifice deals now less damage to yourself. That was like a very late change that happened right before I started recording this. So generally, that's a big buff to Fizz Sacrifice, but also nice on the other ones. And the explosion will now only do physical damage. It used to be half Fizz, half Magic. So generally, builds like Sacrifice Magic was slightly nerfed by that in terms of damage. Also, the overkill damage was nerfed from 150 to 125%. Fizz overall, in my opinion, got buffed because if you're running Amp, you're amplifying the entire damage of the overkill now instead of just the physical part, instead of the when you did like half Fizz, half Magic. So overall, a buff for Fizz and a nerf to the other ones. The range was also nerfed on all the Sacrifice builds, but from what we tested, it still felt fine. Again, speeds A, S for Fizz Sacrifice performed really strongly. We have here Schaefer, Veil, Fortitude, if you can afford them, but you can do this on a lot less. It performed really well with very budget gear that I will link here. We got for Venge, again, A+. This might be an S, like on live. It's very hard to farm budget charms for Vengeance in the beta. So it's a little bit hard to test, kind of like the more correct charms they would have. You know, all these elemental charms that you're more likely to run into. So again, I think this might be an S tier cheap mapper. It performs really well in this budget, but I kind of left it at an A+ for now. A for safety, very nice. You have full block and you do pretty well. You have good sustain too. The chain percent was increased on Vengeance. Felt like a very nice build. Again, you can farm from it from level 1 all the way here. You'll do pretty fine. And we've got Fire Bowden. I have a link for it too soon enough. You'll want to purchase Infinity. My demo doesn't have it. You just have a Demon Machine and a few charms, and you pretty much do okay. Demon Machine, Akira's, and a few charms. That's pretty much all you need for this build to start going. And we got Endgame Mappers. All the Sacrifice variants I kind of explained already, the changes to Sacrifice. I still think Physical, Lightning, and Fire are going to be top tier mappers. They were so strong before. I mean, Sacrifice is going to be possibly even stronger, but they were so strong before Lightning, Fire that I don't think they're losing their replacement. I do think Cold and Magic might be down from S tier. They might stay there, I don't know, because they definitely Magic relies very much on plus skill slams, so it could be that it is better than I'm saying here. But at the very least, it's A, which is still a good tier. Safety-wise, I found all these builds very safe, especially Magic and Cold, because you get like the Holy Freeze Aura is very nice, and for Magic you can build a lot of PDR on your gear without losing damage. So again, both of these are very nice. So it's kind of like a nice thing here where Physical, Light, and Fire are faster, but Cold and Magic are safer, from my experience at least. We have Venge, which is very easy to build safety on as well. Again, keeping the same speed. It had similar performance to Cold and Magic Sack, slightly slower than Fire, Light, and Fizz. Fire Charger did also pretty well. Fairly safe build. You don't really, joust with it too much or anything, so you're just holding the right click. Very nice build for people who just want to hold the right click and not strain their wrists too much. Definitely something I recommend for people like that. Fizz Charger did fine. The fort maps also felt okay with it. I'm not sure if I like fort maps on it, though. I'm like not conclusive on that. I tried a couple. I didn't have a lot of time after the final updates to fortified maps. But yeah, it felt okay. The gear costs are high for it, mostly because of the weapon that you need to get for Fizz Charger. But if you are bossing with this, you can definitely go with it. Venge, by the way, very worth to remind that Venge is a very low cost kind of build. Over here we got Fire Bowden. I played this last season. I have a guide here. It wasn't changed. It's awesome. Speed, I'm only putting it at A because when I put it in S, people made fun of me. And I mean, I streamed it like on my stream. Like I showed it doing pretty S tier kind of times, in my opinion at least, or my kind of S tier. But I'll put it in A, and you guys can check it out. People who watch me know that this build is awesome, and definitely people should try it out. Holy Bolt Bowden, it got changed. I wouldn't say it specifically got nerfed. They lowered the chance to proc from 75 to 40, but the Holy Bolts are higher level, so they do a little bit more damage now. Overall, I consider this personally like no change really happened. I don't think that was particularly fast before in tier freeze. And I don't think that that's really changing, but it's a very budgety build, very easy to build, and it scales well from like the mid-game mapping. So if you do like it, you can definitely go for it. And we have the light multi-shot Bowden. I know there's like 3 Bowdens here. It is what it is. I'm sorry. There's a few builds here that I'm missing that I didn't have time to test, or were not capable, or was not capable of testing them. They're in my notes at the end. But yeah, 3 Bowdens. That's what you have. I tested this at the end of last season. It wasn't really changed. So safety, it's pretty safe. Speed is okay, and the gear costs are pretty high because it's a lot of lightning facets and lightning gear that tends to be very expensive. For the bossing, we have here 5 options. Fizz Charger. I tried on Declone. I tried on Rathma last season. I'm expecting it to again just be slightly better overall because the bosses are becoming weaker. So I had it in A tier, and I'm putting it back in S tier now. This is just more an expectation because of the changes. I still don't like it in Lucian. I think there's plenty of good builds you can do in Lucian for Paladin, but definitely this one I didn't like. Safety overall A. It's I should note here, can drink rejuves while charging. No. I should note it here. That's a pretty big change. It makes some situations before you'd have to stop doing damage in order to drink a potion just to be sure you're not dying. So that's definitely a big change in my opinion. Makes it a lot better for HC players as well. I played this in HC. I did tier 2s with it on HC. So I know the fear of like having to stop your damage just to make sure you can rejuve for safety. Smite, overall damage buffs. I tested it in Lucian during the beta. I didn't have time to do tier 2 Rathma. I still rank it pretty lowly because I think it's a tough build to play just in that kind of environment. It's very demanding. Declone also not a big fan of it, but overall it should perform better. Safety, C, just because like how long the fight is, there's so much room for error in my opinion. Outside of like Lucian, that I know a lot of people did it with a lot of success. Min gear costs, I didn't have a good read on this one. I tried to kind of track prices last season, and I couldn't get a big read on it, so I kept it as a question mark. I don't want to give anybody like false hope or like the wrong impression. I genuinely have no idea. We have Zeal here. Zeal got buffed overall this season, especially from the point of the splash damage working. Definitely a buff to its Declone and Lucian. I considered putting it S in Lucian, but I'm just not quite there yet. I'll consider it in the future. I might change that. Again, in Declone performed very well, capable of doing tier 2s even in my opinion. Didn't do it in the beta, but I did a tier 1 pretty easily, and I had like plenty of rejuves left. Same with Lucian. Again, I did with budget gear. It was very, very easy. Rathma I did tier 1, and it did fine as well. Holy Bolt, we did a Declone tier 2 kill on Holy Bolt. It is very, very strong. I think generally if the magic bossing damage is going to be buffed, if magic damage builds are going to be buffed is what I mean, it's definitely going to perform nicely, maybe even a higher tier, but it's hard to tell. Rathma, I've never seen somebody do tier 2 Rathma on Holy Bolt, so I can't really comment on it. I wanted to do it last season, but sadly the bosses were bugged, so I just kind of gave up that idea. Lucian, I know that it's possible. I am not sure how good it is after the changes to the minions. I didn't have the time to test it. I took it down a tier from what it was before, so it was a B and I put it at C now because that's how I perceive the change for it to be. But again, could be different depending on how effective this change is. Lastly is Holy Fire Bowden. I did these kills as well last season. I think the build is pretty capable. I've done in the beta a tier 1 kill for Declone with a lot of rejuves left. I've done Rathma before and Lucian as well. Again, not the best, but definitely a fun little challenge if you want to play this build and also experience some bossing. Safety is a B. You need to build a lot of Pierce gear, which definitely makes building defenses in Declone and Rathma and Lucian a lot more challenging. Difficulty, not too hard though. And the minimum gear costs are high just because fire facets are expensive. We're about halfway through. We got the Barb, the class that everybody probably waits for because it's going to be the most popular class, I think, in Season 13 for a good reason. Got some cool changes, but let's look at it. So free leveling approaches. I always recommend to start with Frenzy through normal. It's the one that I perform the best with. I don't like farming on anything other than Frenzy in normal difficulty. And then you can either stay on Frenzy forever, go with Warcry for Nightmare once you get a few plus skill items, or go with two-headed Whirlwind, which is the most recommended setup right now. It's just very, very strong. It's very capable, and you can scale into endgame very fast. I did this in the open beta, a full playthrough all the way to declone, and it's just absolutely slapped in every step of the way once I got the weapon. So yeah, definitely something to keep in mind. Some tips here for leveling from season 12 and 13. No thank you. Mercs, speeds, Barb is generally slower, yes, but still very, very strong, fairly safe as well. Warcry the safest one out of the three. Gear needs, just like some old skill FCR stuff. Good weapons is what you're looking for these two. For 200 Whirlwind, if you can make an Insight, it is going to work for you. After all the nerfs, the changes, 200 Whirlwind with Insight works in hell, carries you through. Definitely a solid option. A note here, this is a note for Warcry. You can no longer craft clubs with plus Barb skills. Warcry damage buffed and range was also buffed as notes for Warcry. I'm not sure why it went down all the way down. It's supposed to be just for the top, but oops. You guys will forgive me, I guess, and we'll fix that later. Later in early mapping, so we got double throw, Warcry, Berserk, and double swing, and or double swing. They kind of play the same. Whirlwind bleed and two-handed whirlwind. These are all the options that you can go with. We got here a double throw. You can farm all sorts of areas. You mostly want to go to corrupted zones. It does okay. You do need the weapons, so definitely take that into account. Only do this if you find good weapons or if you craft them. We got Warcry. Warcry should sit at Trav. This is the most efficient place. This is, for many people, it's very boring. For me, it's very boring, but it's a very efficient way to get rich. If you just want to be efficient in currency making, Trav Warcry Barbs, they make currency, okay? Versatility here is D. It can farm other places, but it shouldn't. So that's why it's versatility D. Not because it can, but because it shouldn't. Speed B, safety A, very safe, very easy to run, and you make a lot of gold. You make a lot of drops very fast. Damage and range buffed on it. We got Berserk and Double Swing, doing mostly Chaos and Keys. That's why I ran on it when I was testing. It felt pretty fine. It was a little slow. It wasn't very versatile. It was fairly safe. Overall, damage felt better on this. I don't know if I was imagining it or if it was actually better. That's just compared to last season tests. It performed slightly better with pretty similar setups. So I was pretty happy with it. I have a guide for it. You can use the same guide from last season. You should be fine. This build can do Ubers and Declone too, which is pretty nice. By the way, just to clarify, this is not Berserk and Double Swing on the same build. This is either playing Berserk or playing Double Swing. They just use a lot of similar stuff, so they kind of go together for me in terms of a build idea. We got Whirlwind Bleed, a great build to start on. We got Cows, Chaos, early maps. Anything that can give you bleed and get you to that 100% bleed chance will help you kind of do that damage. I have a Whirlwind Bleed budget guide over here. I might even have another one from this season. Overall, smaller AoE, but damage seems better. Again, might just be me hallucinating the damage being better, but it does seem more consistent than last season. Other than that, the AoE is smaller, but you don't have to invest points into Frenzy anymore, so you can have points in other things that are a little bit more versatile. I personally still put points into Frenzy because I like the move speed, but you know, it's up to you. Again, we got the speeds here, the versatility, and the safety. 200 Whirlwind, did it in the open beta. Amazing versatility, can do pretty much everything, can hop into early maps with almost no gear whatsoever. It is about as safe as the other ones. Again, you get a little bit of PDR, but you still a pretty melee build, jumping into enemies at the time before you can cap all of your resistances, so take that into consideration. It was fairly fast at killing stuff too. Crushing Blow in Season 13 feels amazing, and two-handed Barbs feel amazing as well. Alright, let's keep going. Dude, this video is going to be so long. So we got early bossing over here. We got Berserk, Double Swing, Throw, and two-handed Whirlwind. So I did 200 Whirlwind during the open beta. People can see it there. Fairly cheap. Again, it was self-found stuff in like 24 hours or less even. I think it was like 16 hours of playtime, possibly even less, and just use self-found gear. So very, very effective early bosser. I did not expect that to work as much as it did, but it was definitely solid. Being able to drink rejuves as you're spinning, definitely a big win here. Throw, it's a good build. If you find the right weapons, you'll be fine. It's really, really good. I don't like it in Ubers, but in Declone, it's very, very strong. Double Swing, just solid, classic, right? It's the same as Berserk. Does slightly less damage, so I have it one tier below. the fights are slightly worse, but you're not reducing your PDR, which is definitely a win in terms of safety for D-Swing. So you're a little bit safer, slightly less damage. Overall, I count it as the same safety because the fights on D-Swing were longer, which means there's more room to make a mistake and die. So overall, I consider Berserk slightly better early bossing, but both are fine. For cheap mappers, we have these 5 builds over here. We got Whirlwind Fizz, two-handed, just what I did in the open beta. Very, very strong, fast, fairly safe. It got big buffs. That's the notes from Crushing Blow, the Mastery, you know, all sorts of good changes. The splash damage, of course. I don't have a link for it, but I played in the open beta. And maybe I should link that video over here. I think I have a IK set video that I just released actually. So again, the things you want to buy: big weapons, fortitude, crushing blow support items, or go with full IK in the beginning and be super budget for it. We got Whirlwind Bleed, you know, just a good setup. 2 Razor's Edge, fortitude, or 2 Throw. They buffed Crowcaw to do more open wounds, so that's another option for an armor. Again, I'm suggesting fortitude. It's not like Abyss armor or anything. It's just something that you can make and then sell later. Always has a good resell value. So that's why I'm kind of recommended it here. Demon Horn got a buff that is nice. Now gives +2 open wounds. We got Drax. All sorts of like bleed support items, and you'll pretty much be blasting through maps. Again, the AoE slightly smaller, but the performance is still good, so I'm not worried about it. We got Zerk and Double Swing. Safety, I put it in A. I put it in C+. Fort maps buffed. Should feel good, is what this should say. The speed on it says C+, just because I didn't manage to get enough tests on Zerk and Double Swing after the changes to fortified maps. They just happened way too late into the beta. So I put it in C+, probably a B, and probably does pretty fine. Throw, you can go with Wind Rune Ward and some ED support, or you can go with crafted weapons. You can go with Lacerator. Lacerator is not that good. Ideally, use crafted or Wind Rune Ward early on. Fortitude Veil, just to boost your damage, is pretty solid. Again, Fortitude, you can sell it later. I like going with Enigma in the end game, or you can go with materials, these kind of like end game armors, or some crafted armors, always good. Warcry Barb. Warcry Barb is great. Get an Enigma, a Brimstone, and some Skellers. You can start blasting maps. If you don't have those, you can use Naj or Nai's staff and set. You can use either the full set or just the staff to teleport on your swap. Very, very good build. They buffed, oh, we forgot the notes here. Buffed damage and range. Just absolutely great. I love this skill before. It's even stronger now. And definitely a solid starter mapper. For endgame mappers, we have all these options. And one of those, I actually have to put another asterisk here because I do need to get back to this. So I'll get to it at the end, but let's start with all the other ones. We have here Whirlwind Fizz, Bleed, Fire, Proc, have varying levels of safety. Again, Proc and Fire have slightly worse sustain than Fizz and Bleed that leech pretty consistently. The speed on Fizz and Bleed was both in my S tier category. I really like how they feel like right now. It feels a lot more consistent. You kill stuff a lot more consistently with the new Crushing Blow changes. The AoE nerfs again on Bleed feel slightly worse. You can do Whirlwind Bleed with two-handed or with dual wielding, so it's kind of up to you. They both seem pretty good. I like the dual wielding still setup. Like it felt still better to me, but both are good. I should write here slight AoE nerf if dual wield. There we go. The damage overall with both setups felt better. Fire, Whirlwind, a slight AoE nerf because you're using 2 Flame Bellows, so you're getting only 20% splash bonus increase, not 40. So that's, I mean, it's still nice. It still feels good. We got the Whirlwind Proc. One of them was buffed. The others, I don't think, were changed. The Asylum buffs for Whirlwind Proc are very nice, and I'll have a guide for it out. I have the old guide here. It's a little bit of a sloppy guide. It's very, very old. It uses a very questionable thumbnail. For sure. So yeah, I'll definitely upload a new one instead of it to kind of get a better guide out there. But I really like the changes on it. It's one of my one of my first builds I was super excited about to make a video for. So now I'll remake it for this season. We got Warcry Barb, in my opinion, an S tier build. Again, damage and range buffs are very nice. People usually complain about the Enigma running out of charges. You can solve that in a lot of different ways. I'll leave that to people to kind of figure that out, how to do that for themselves. The fact is that we managed to get the times to S tier, so I think the build is good. You can have extra teleport stuff on your swap, or you can just use some other mobility tools in your disposal. But overall, it performs very well. We got Throw Fizz. This is double throw, not split throw. So I should say defrow Fizz. There are some proc defrow builds. I didn't manage to test them myself. They require very specific like items, and I couldn't really get to them in the beta. Defrow Fizz did really well. I consider it an S tier build. I have a demo of a throw bubba from last season. Wasn't really changed overall, so it's pretty much the same. Crushing Blow didn't really change for ranged as well, from my understanding, so overall it's the same build, I think. So pretty much the same stuff. Gear costs are very high for this build, for sure, because it requires a lot of crafted and endgame stuff to make it there. D-Swinged Zerk, again, fairly safe, walking build, a little bit better due to fortification map buffs, definitely feels nice. Bear Barb, I have a video on it, will be uploaded over here. Safety S feels very safe. I ran 10 maps on it, didn't have even like close calls really from what I remember, maybe like one when I was recording at most, if I'm thinking about the right video. Felt very safe to map with it, very easy to get cap PDR on it as well. The speed was very nice. It was a lot better than I expected. The fortified maps and the two-handed buffs feel amazing on it. It is a little expensive, but it definitely a fun build. People want that kind of like spicy walker. So not only like holding the right click, but also being a Druid and Barb together. You know what I mean. You know what I feel. We got the Impaler Barb here. That's basically the Fend Barb. So if we had the Druid Barb hybrid, this the Zon Barb hybrid, it performed pretty similarly in terms of speed to Amazon Fend. Fend is just not that amazing for maps, but in fortified maps, it definitely felt pretty good, and it's definitely better than it used to be. We have here Safety A, again, pretty safe build overall. And now we got Split Throw, and I'm adding an asterisk here. And I'll update this hopefully before the season starts, but I'm not sure that I could. I'll have to see if I can reach a conclusion on it or not. Last minute patch notes might be big changes. So in the last patch notes that were just dropped before I started recording this, Split Throw got several things that I perceive to be as pretty nice buffs. I don't know if it will push it over to S tier in terms of speed. Already in the beta, after the big buffs that we got to damage and all the other quality of life stuff, it already felt significantly better. It will still require a lot of gear. Maybe this change will make it so you don't need as much gear to make it work. Maybe that change will also make its speed go up. I don't know. It's hard for me to say at current point, because I didn't get to test this. This was after everything was changed, so yeah, most likely I'll only get to test this after the season. After the season starts, hopefully early in the season. But if not, I'll make a guide for it, a rework guide for it, if the changes really are meaningful. The changes are they're interesting for sure, but they will take time to test and understand. So I'm just kind of leaving it there. New skill, I have a guide for it right before the changes. Sadly, you know, it's part of the life during the beta. You sometimes record and it ends up being irrelevant after a week. That's just life. Let's go to bossing. We have here Berserk. I had really good results for Berserk and Declone. I think a lot of people don't like it there. For me, it did really well, so I was pretty happy with it. Reworked Masteries seem to be more damage. I put a question mark there because I was not sure if that is the case or not. I put a question mark near Wolf Barb as well. After that, again, Rathma I put in A, a little bit harder, and Lucian felt like an S to me. Safety A overall is a melee build, but you are fairly tanky, pretty hard to bring you down. Difficulty, I consider it very easy, similar to Maul. These are two builds I feel like I could do at any point. They're very, very nice, and the minimum gear requirements, again, for me were pretty low when I did it, so I believe it's a strong build for bossing. Not maybe my top 3, but definitely up there in the top. We got Fro. Fro is an amazing declone runner. Overall, I'll you know what, I'll put this to A just to kind of create this discernment for Fro, because Fro is definitely better than Berserk for declone. Fro, I'll put it in the S tier. It's one of the best declone builds, in my opinion. Very, very strong. And they're in Rafa and Lucian, slightly weaker, mostly due to some situations where you don't get the bounces to do like the full damage and you're just hitting like one target. These kind of situations kind of bring it down. But declone definitely feels amazing. For safety, feels pretty safe. Again, you're very tanky. You fight from range. You get to dodge quite a bit while doing damage. So overall, very strong. Difficulty, I consider it easy. Again, because it's not super demanding. It's very safe. You do have to maintain a lot of different buffs at the same time. So that can be annoying for some players. Just keep that in mind. Main gear cost, I consider the medium. You mostly just need good weapons. The rest you can kind of slap together. Build was not changed. Wolf Barb, I think it got slight damage buffs. Again, it's not the best bossing build. It's just okay kind of build. It does have more splash now because you're going to use a two-handed weapon, which is pretty nice. If you are using Odium, Odium was buffed. Personally, there's other weapons I think can also be used for it, or just crafted weapons that can be used. So there's a lot of different options that you can go for. Build is overall pretty easy, but you do need solid gear, you know, to make the kills happen. For Whirlwind is a difficult one because I only managed to do a declone. I didn't manage to do Rathman Lucian, and it was in previous patches, not in season 13 patch. I didn't want to spoil myself on like how hard this is to do with Barb, since I'm most likely going to play Barb at some point this season. So I wanted to keep that kind of like a surprise for me. Didn't want to practice it in the beta. I just some of these are a little bit more speculative than the others. We got safety here in B. You're still spinning, which means you'll be taking in more damage sometimes than you should. The animation is pretty long, but you can rejuve during the animation, which is a big win. Difficulty, I consider this a harder kill than the other ones. Just the ability to move while doing damage is nice on one hand, but on the other hand, you have to be very careful with where and when you place your whirlwinds. And yeah, gear costs are pretty high. Zeal Barb, I think it's pretty solid. We tested it a little bit in bossing in the past. I didn't have time to test it fully this season. It got the bonus splash damage of Zeal. It got also the bonus splash damage for doing two-handed of Barb. So again, could be very, very nice. Overall, I think this setup got a little bit improved. Consider it pretty strong for Lucian and okay-ish for Rathma and Declone. Difficulty medium, just again for animation reasons. Some of these skills just lock you in place in awkward moments sometimes. Main gear costs, I consider them high overall. Damage, physical jewels and things like that can be really annoying to get, and just physical gear in general. Bear Barb, pretty solid. I haven't seen a Rathma kill with it. I'm sure they can do it. I haven't had the time to test it myself. I've done a Declone and Lucian tier 1s with plenty of rejuves left on a pretty budgety gear with no slams during the open beta. So, sorry, just say medium. So again, I feel like it's pretty solid overall. I should add notes to this as well. I'll definitely leave asterisks to remind myself these builds were changed overall this season. So again, Burr Barb felt pretty good. I don't know about Rathma, I just didn't have the time to try it. I'm sure that it can do it. And Jab Barb, it's the one that uses the Impaler. It's a pretty solid one. Again, felt pretty solid in Declone and Lucian. Rathma a little worse, mostly due to animation of Jab being a little bit slower. So that's why a little bit behind compared to things like Berserk and Double Throw. They're a little bit safer. On to the Necro, our 5th class. So we're getting close. Okay, we're getting close. I'll try to keep this under, I don't know, what, 2 hours maybe? I'll try. Mostly because my voice might not make it to 2 hours. So yeah, let's go. Poison Strike into Clay Golems and Revives for Nightmare and Hell. That's the way that I recommend leveling. I was considering including Mages and Revives here as well. That's a very solid option for leveling. Generally speaking, I try to include builds that can, in the leveling paths, that can do Ubers and Declone eventually. And Mages and Revives didn't feel as good for that when I was trying them. So that's why I'm keeping Clay Golems and Revives only here. But Mages are definitely viable here. You can use Poison Strike all the way through. There's plenty of other builds. This is just a recommended one from me. So I just want to know that because I got a lot of questions about it when I showed my tier list on the stream. So again, keeping that here. We got the Merc, A4 Dark with Insight. That's how I run it. Speed, B, Safety, A. That's supposed to be flipped. Sorry. Supposed to be flipped. There we go. I've played this also in the open beta. Very, very strong playthrough for this build. Very solid. Again, you're a Necro, low HP, hard to cap the res on this build while also maintaining your plus skills. So you need to make some choices. We got Smoke, Lore, Ancient Pledge. So usually the rune words that you're looking for, and everything else kind of fits together. For early farming, here are the free builds that I recommend. We got Golems and Revives. It's a build you're leveling with. Keys, Trav, Corrupted Zones, and Act Bosses does well against all of them. Corrupted Zones, again, this season feel very good farming with this build. Versatility, A, it can do like a lot of different places. It can, you know, do pretty much everything. It doesn't do great in maps. It's the only weakness it has. It becomes fairly safe at that point. You have a lot of summons that kind of protect you, and you can play from pretty far. And we got pretty solid speed at farming the areas that it farms. I managed to do loops of 7 minutes. I think it was like 7 to 7.5 minutes of doing Chaos, free key bosses, and Travancore, which is pretty solid at that kind of like low gear point when you don't have basically any uniques, just like some rares and some magic items slapped together with maybe an Ancient's Pledge. Notes, Crushing Blow buffs and Golem AI buffs are great. Also, Golem's got a splash damage buff, so I should say Crushing Blow, Golem, Splash, and Golem AI buffs are great. Yeah, that's nice. T farming, Chaos, and Trav, I have a guide from it from last season on a budget. Again, it's pretty solid. It's very, very nice. It's very fast. It's versatile, not super versatile, but it can do a lot of things. Magic damage. In the new season, being able to farm Corrupted Zones is very important. So I should have actually Corrupted Zones here. Because it's very important. It's not as safe as the other ones. You do have like these big summons protecting you, only a couple golems. But it's a very solid build. It's very, very strong. The guide is up. Nothing changed. Mages and Revives got a slight damage buff. Mages were already good before. I don't see this buff as like something big changed about the build. It's more like to drag attention away from golems and revives into mages. So people also played this build. That's kind of like how I see this changed. It was also always good. It can hop into maps earlier than these two. It's very solid at hopping into maps. If you can summon council members with the mages, cast low res, pretty much goes through a lot of things very fast. Again, speed good, versatility good, safety pretty good. We love this build overall. The only downside is that unlike these two, it does not scale well into Ubers and Declone. So it's kind of like its downside compared to them. For early bossing, we got golems, blood, and fire. I guess this shouldn't say fire anymore because the fire golems nerf and the golem, the blood golems buff. So let's just say blood golems. Okay, blood golems, nice. So blood golems are pretty good. A and splash buffs. I don't know why it doesn't say buffs. For the blood golems are very, very nice. This is a build to do declone with. I've done in the open beta on extremely budget gear. I have a demonstration here. The only thing that we should remember is that fire golems no longer needed. That's kind of like a note for the video. The fire golems were changed pretty significantly. They do more direct damage, more splash damage, but their aura is worse. I was mostly using them for their aura during the skeleton phases in previous seasons. I think at this point you just use the blood golems only, maybe clay golems if you want to. So that's just something to kind of remember. Boner for early bossing can do also Ubers. By the way, I didn't say that maybe strongly enough, but I don't do Ubers with this build, just with blood golems. I like having the revives too, and this build only maxes out the golems, so that's something to keep in mind. It's a very easy kill. It's, in my opinion, the best early decloner in the game right now, and I will most likely show that also on launch. People want to see. I did it in the open beta as well, and on launch, the first declone. This is my prediction here between me and my viewers. This will be the first build to take out declones. Gear requirements, extremely low. I should say very low. Very low. Boner Necro can do Ubers, a little bit more difficult, a little bit harder of a fight because you don't have as much things tanking for you, kind of have to dodge a lot more, but it is capable of doing it with Bone Spear kind of taking care of the ads pretty consistently. We did it in the open, not in the open, in the closed beta. Declone also doable. Again, magic bossing is supposed to be improved. This was done after we tested. I don't know if this will be enough to change the tier. I really don't know the values. The gear requirements, they are a little higher than these two, or maybe more than a little bit higher, but it is still doable. You have to shop for a good wand for a little bit longer, and that's at the very least you don't have to buy anything. It's mostly just spending more time at Akara shopping for wands. Difficulty is a lot harder than these two for sure. Last build is the clay golems and revives. This is not a declone build, it's only an Ubers build. So you can see like the clay golems and revives is an Ubers build, but the blood golems is a declone build. You can try and do both of them on the same spec, but you're going to lose a lot of damage doing all of them with one spec. So what I recommend doing is usually get your torch and then respec to do declone whenever you're ready. That's generally how I would approach it. Clay golems and revives, amazing for Ubers. If this is the best decloner early in the game, this is the best Ubers early in the game. And again, my prediction is that the first Ubers taken out will be done by this build. And who knows, maybe by season 14, this build will be nerfed too, because it's incredibly powerful at the early game at the moment. So gear requirements, low. Difficulty, very easy. You sit back and you watch your revives kind of shred the Ubers. I have demonstrations here. It was pretty much buffed since then. Not nerfed, it was buffed. So again, the AI splash and crushing blow buffs on the clay golems all feel great. And they did really well in there. Whoa. Let's go down now, not up. Yeah, down to cheap mappers. So we have here 6 options. We got Boner, Necro. I got a demonstration from last season. Didn't get changed. Speed is S. Does really, really well early on. Magic LCs, Bone Shade, Skillers, whatever you can find. 220 Necro Circlet just to get some FCR. Or you can even go full Trangs, if we're being honest. It just does really, really well early on. And posts some really impressive times on super low budget gear. Remember, this is supposed to be like one big rune word, like some builds are getting infinity. This build on 1/3 of that currency would still perform better than most builds. That's why it's landing a spot in the S tier. Not many builds make it here. But again, I said the cheaper builds who perform better will get a few points, and Boner is definitely one of them. Dark Pact, very safe build because of your Decrepify. It's slow at killing map bosses, kind of an important note. I have a budget DP setup from last season. I recorded another one this season for people to kind of see. Fairly fast, very, very nice build overall. Summoner, this is the Fizz Skelly Summoner. Does pretty well. Demon Machine was only slightly nerfed. Critical Strike on Archers is better now. I didn't manage to feel the difference. Overall, it posted the same times I had last season, so I consider the build the same. Beast Rune Word is your big rune word for this build. And one moment. Okay. So next build is P-Nova. A lot of people ask me about budget P-Nova. This is a build that I'm very likely to play next season. P-Nova is possible on a budget. The thing is that normally you don't want to walk into maps before you start one-shotting things. But if you do want to map early with P-Nova, I would start with full Trangs and a cheap D-Web. It's a pretty cheap thing to kind of get going. You can Desecrate for single target damage. If you see any more tanky mobs, you can always use it on them as well. And also, it got a slight buff, which makes it nice. You can also boss with Desecrate, which is a nice buff. A cool thing about P-Nova is that before you didn't have a lot of places to farm that were effective, but now with the changes to corrupted zones being overall better and more available, you could also farm corrupted zones with P-Nova, which is pretty nice. This is supposed to be a list for cheap mappers, but it's definitely a nice extra buff in terms of P-Nova getting more viability in early farming and not only when it's extremely expensive. I sadly didn't manage to record a video for it during the closed beta. Sadly, I didn't get to it, but I do think it's viable. You don't have to have all this super expensive Giga gear to get into maps. As long as you're staying in the tier 1s, you will still be fine. Over here we got Summoners, Mages, and Revives. I did a little bit of testing for it in cheap mapping gear. We tried all sorts of setups. You can get Skillers, Grims, Burning Dead, plus skills, and FCR gear. You can get things like Infinity if you want to. I tested this with an Act 3 Merc just for the sustain because I didn't run Phoenix. But you can do a lot of different setups for this. All of them are viable. Just a few options here. It performed well. It was fairly fast. It wasn't like top speed, but it definitely did okay. The mages again got slight damage buffs. I should have this in the note. Mages received slight damage buffs. But the build pretty similar to previous seasons in my opinion. Corpse Explosion, this was supposed to say we'll add later. Why? Oh, because I added later, but I didn't I didn't edit that out. So Corpse Explosion, safety B, mostly due to a few tanks till you get more skill levels. Usually you add revives to it and golems to kind of be a little bit of tanks for you, kind of in front of you. The build does play from range though, so it is still pretty safe. Again, you can get Infinity and Skillers or get full Trangs or a Skull Collector setup. You have a bunch of options here. You can play it before the Infinity. It still feels okay. The range was slightly decreased in the season, but it still feels good. It didn't feel significantly nerfed or anything like that. For Endgame Mappers, we have here, I think, 7 builds total. Most of them have pretty varying ranges. You'll see a couple of S+ tiers. I think it's the first time we see those in this tier list. So let's go over them. We got Boner. Sadly, in late game, Boner, it does feel like it falls off compared to other builds. Falling from S tier over here to A tier over here in the tier freeze. Is relatively fine in terms of safety. It doesn't have really def issues, but more like you have to be very careful with how you're like teleporting as always. As Necro, you'll be pretty fragile because you're building a lot of plus skills on your gear. You do have room for like things like PDR, but PDR only comes into effect after your bone armor pops. So that is kind of like important to remember. You need to build a lot of health, flat health from your gear. So yeah, that's kind of like stuff the Boner goes through. This should be a B+ actually. I'll be more honest. A B+ doesn't really have that many survivability issues like some of these builds. Over here for gear cost, the kind of medium, there's not a lot of competition on a lot of this gear. Not a lot of people play endgame Boner, from what I saw at least. A lot of these things, when I sell them, end up going for a lot less than the gear for other builds. But yeah, pretty solid. I didn't have an option to record one because it relies on a lot of plus skills slams, but I've seen it in action in the live season. Corpse Explosion, slight radius nerfs, not a big deal. Again, I put in an A+. I think with full slams and GG, real GG gear of endgame, it can be an S. Again, I put it in an A+ because it was just hard to test during the beta. Safety wise, pretty safe build. You get a lot of summons and you get them to kind of like protect you, play from range. You don't have to telestomp or do anything too scary. So again, felt pretty fine for me. Dark Pact, extremely safe build. I played this in season 9. I have 3 deaths on the character or something like that. And everybody who knows me knows that when I play on softcore, I play pretty recklessly. I don't really care if I die. So again, very safe build. Very, very nice to play. Pretty off meta. The gear costs are very low. And it is still very fast. Very strong build. I have a guide for it here. I have another guide for it here. And I uploaded another guide for a budget version of it today. I love this build so much. I wish more people played it, but it is what it is. People don't like the idea of it being called a piano build, even though most of the time you just press like 2 curses and then pop them and teleport to another pack. So again, it's like 3 or 4 keys that you press per rotation. Not really a big deal. We got Poison Nova over here. This is, in my opinion, generally speaking, the fastest mapper in the game in terms of KPM. People who watch my short also know that this is the build that I ranked the fastest. Generally speaking, there's 2 builds that I recommend, that I say are like the best builds in the game in terms of kills per minute, and they're Poison Nova and Poison Strike. Poison Strike got a slight range decrease. It's still GG from what I tested. Like the range decrease is super small, was barely noticeable when farming, and it still performs really, really well. So overall, I think these 2 builds are the best in terms of KPM. The gear price for Poison Strike is a lot lower than the endgame gear for Poison Nova, which is definitely worth noting. And Poison Nova is less safe than Poison Strike, so I consider them equals. In tier freeze, Poison Strike is a lot easier to get to the endgame with, you know, when you're consistent. And Poison Nova in tier 1s and tier 2s absolutely dominates. It's just absolutely destroys these maps. So that's kind of like the general information about these 2. I have guides on both of them if you want to check them out. Green Goblin Necro. Slight nerfs to Demon Machine, not a big deal. Still a solid build. Speed goes around the 6-minute mark, slightly below once you get all the slams. In my opinion, pretty good overall. Gear costs are medium. They're pretty easy to build, very consistent builds overall. And it's pretty safe build as well, which is nice to have. Down to Bossing on Necro. Bossing on Necro was overall buffed. Again, Desecrate, the main Bossing build, in my opinion, got buffed on its damage, and poison damage buffs are supposedly in place. I tried to test this. I did feel significant changes, but it's just things that are very hard to test. It's basically like how long does poison last on them in terms of frames, and you can try and compare frames frame by frame, but it's a little bit hard for me to do these things. So again, I didn't feel anything significant in terms of the buffs, but it was already a good build for Bossing. So definitely a good. If we get the values for this, maybe we know better how buffed it is. But otherwise, just a solid build. I give it B in all three. I've done these kills before in season 11. And maybe I'll do them again and kind of update these for season 13. Poison Strike, consider it slightly worse in Declone and kind of similar in Lucian and Rathma, mostly due to just being a melee build compared to Desecrate, which is very easy to kite with on Necro. We got Blood Golems, mostly just a Declone build. Somebody told me that Lucian is also viable on this, but I just haven't seen it being done. I tried it a little bit, but I wasn't a big fan of it. Just for Declone, it is a pretty good build. It's fairly safe. You can kind of stand from a distance and watch your Blood Golems tear them apart. And it got buffed because the AI and Splash on Blood Golems was buffed as well. Bow Necro, generally magic damage on Bossing, again, is allegedly buffed. Declone is doable, in my opinion, and that's all I'm going to give it, is just doable. But Rathma and Lucian I haven't seen being done. I speculate that it's possible, but it's just speculation. As they say, it will require very serious gear in order to properly do. And I don't know if I'm up to that task at the moment. But if somebody is and wants to prove it, send me a video. I'd love to see it. It would be very cool. I'm always excited to see these kind of like more niche boss skills. So maybe one dedicated player wants to pick up the gauntlet on one of those. Yeah, that's the end for Necro. We have 2 more classes to go. Next one is Assassin. And this is the class I'm planning to play next season. So I'm very happy with how Necro is at the moment and with his current state. And yeah, let's move on to Assassin. For Assassin, we have a couple of leveling options, some leveling tips, and some other useful videos. Blade Sentinel for normal, and then spec into Lightning Traps for Nightmare and Hell. Slightly faster. It's one of the faster ways to solo level yourself through the campaign, in my opinion. Very, very nice. If you don't want to do the respec, you can just go Light Traps all the way. You will be a little bit slower in normal, resulting in a slower speed rank. But overall, same safety, same everything. You can do Psychic Hammer into Mind Blast, no respecs. Again, slightly slower, saves the respecs, but is definitely very safe. This was the safest build from my tests. Kind of give you the gear options here. And you got Blade Sentinel with Venom all the way. Again, saves respecs. Was slightly slower than this for me. I ended up being a little bit slower in terms of the full playthrough. But it's a solid option. Definitely still safe. The nerfs to it don't feel super meaningful in terms of the early game. The shadows, I don't think we're supposed to do a lot of damage early on. And that's kind of like the extent of what I managed to test with Blade Sentinel. I couldn't get a lot done with it. But we'll talk about that soon. For early farming, 3 major options that I give here are Wake of Fire, Lightning Traps, and Mind Blast. With their respective zones. We got the versatility on stuff here. Mind Blast being a little bit more versatile, mostly because it's doing physical and you have some magical damage to kill Fizz immunes. So pretty solid overall. But for the most part, you like to stay in Chaos Sanctuary and do maybe some corrupted zones. I don't really want to farm other things. For Lightning Traps, mostly Arcane, some corrupted zones. Wake of Fire, I mostly like to stay in Cows, but you can hop into some early mapping if you'd like to. Safety feels amazing on Mind Blast, a little bit less so on Wake of Fire and Lightning Traps. You also don't get a good sustain on them. You have to chuck potions till you get your Phoenix, or like proper leech, I guess, from Blade Shield. So yeah, generally speaking, this is really safe. The other ones a little bit less so. And they all farm at a decent speed at the very least. For early bossing, we have here 4 options. We got Blade Sentinel. I tried to do Ubers with it, and nerfed, still viable. Shadows do much less damage, but they still tank for you, which is their main purpose, which is pretty nice. Again, felt significantly weaker to what it was last season, but I've always had problems with this build. I was never that into it, so I'm sure people who are more adept at using Blade Sentinel will do better than me and might rank it higher in terms of early bossing. Again, just putting it there. We've done Declone with it as well. Declone felt a little bit better than the Ubers, but still not my favorite. Still pretty safe build. Difficulty, I put it at medium because I'm failing at it, but maybe that's kind of like hope on my end, kind of sucking with the skill. Gear requirements, I put it at medium, just again because for me it took a little bit more gear than the other ones to get it to work. I know a lot of people run it with like King's Grace or like Edge Runeward, and I didn't manage to do that. For me that was not enough. Light traps, I gave it S for Ubers and S for Declone. With the current buffs, last season they were pretty solid, and now they felt super amazing. I managed to do the kills at level 25 lightning traps, which is way lower than what you're guaranteed to have pretty much when you finish your campaign. And we did Declone at level 27, which again is lower than what you're gonna have normally by the time you have your Declone nets. So again, I put it easy. I should even say very easy. It felt incredibly easy to do both of them. I was very happy with how it performed. Gear requirements low, maybe even very low, I should say, very low for this one. And this is one of the, in my perception, one of the better early Declone and Uber killers, alongside the Necro that we've seen earlier with the Golem builds. But this one doesn't require respec, which is definitely a point in the Assassin's favor. I say much better. Damage buffs are great. Mind Blast was not changed. Mind Blast is still good, meaning that Mind Blast is still good. You can still do it. Extremely safe build. You get a maxed out fade that's going to keep you both safe in Declone and in Ubers. In Ubers, you get juiced out Shadow Warriors that will tank for you and also do damage on the way. And in Declone, you get Shadow Warriors that will tank for you and do damage on the way. The only reason this is not an A tier build in my tier list is because I ranked it as an A tier in the past, and people tried it and they gave me feedback. They said they did struggle with it and it didn't work out for them as much. So I'm curving it a little bit towards the viewers. I just want to state it in this tier list. In this video, so people know I do think it's a little bit better than what the feedback that I get from other people, but I don't want to take the people who use the builds into account while making these videos, because I'm not making the tier list strictly for me. It's supposed to be useful to other people, and if I get overwhelming feedback that something is not the way I perceive it, then I try to kind of curve it in your direction. Yeah, anyway, difficulty I consider it easy. Gear requirements medium. I'm mostly just looking for either crafted claws or shopped claws that do pretty well. Fire traps, also another solid Ubers kill, solid Declone kill, fairly safe, very easy to run, and requires very low gear. Not very low, just low gear, I guess, because it required a little bit more levels than lightning traps. All right, let's go on to the next category, cheap mappers. And wow, I might take a small pause in the video and give myself some water because I'm definitely starting to need it. In cheap mappers, we got Mind Blast. I tested this with a full nudge set, and then also did like the same budget that we run. The more expensive stuff. So I got Mirage, dual Mirages. I got some Skeletons, some Shadow Dancers, and it still was a lot cheaper than a lot of the big Runeward builds that use Infinity or that use other such items or Runewards. And despite that, it still performed really well in terms of speed. So I was really happy with how Mind Blast performed. I think it's a very strong early farmer, both in the early farming category and the cheap mapping category. Very strong build. I love it and recommend it. I played it myself. That shows you have a lot of faith in it. Now we got Wake of Fire. Now Wake of Fire is a very good endgame build. For me, in that range of budget, it still performs slightly worse than a few other builds. It is very strong. It scales very well into late game, but just with the current budget, when you just have Infinity and Skillers, it felt a little bit hard to keep up. Also, the safety on it felt a little bit worse before you have like proper, before you get like an Assassin Ward or like a good Gerkis or whatever you're getting to get your block chances. If you're getting a Phoenix, some people use Phoenix, or you can use Phoenix on the swap. There's a lot of things that you're missing in terms of sustain or in terms of safety when you just have like one big Rune Ward, regardless of what your approach is. That's just something to kind of keep in mind. if you're building Wake of Fire. I do think it's a very strong build again in the end game, and we'll get to that soon. We got Blade Dance Poison. This is the Whirlwind Poison Sin. Now this build got nerfed on the Sin players, or at least one of them, you know who you are not very happy with this. The AoE was nerfed because it does not use Tiger Strike anymore. Tiger Strike used to give it AoE, and that was kind of weird. I never liked that interaction at all. And it made it so Whirlwind Sin was performing better than Whirlwind Barb. That just kind of didn't make sense. It had more splash radius than Whirlwind Barb, and that didn't make sense. And I'm glad this was changed. This was a good change, and I'm very happy about it. Overall, the build still performed fine in terms of speed. It used to be in the S tier. Now it's in the A tier. Again, slightly slower overall, but still good. And I think the build is perfectly fine for a build that costs an Ohm Rune and the Natalia set. I think it definitely performs still very okay. Definitely worth going for if you get an Ohm Rune. Tested it with several setups, a full Crushing Blow and a full Natalia's. They both performed very strongly. Alright, Fists of Fire, Safety A, again, one of those melee builds, but fairly safe with Claw Block. Speed S, you get an Infinity Skillers, maybe a Kira's, and you pretty much just kill everything in the beginning. It's very, very fast, very effective. You get like a juiced out Dragonflight, because it's a synergy for Fists of Fire, and you just pop from pack to pack and just kill everything. Blade Fury was not changed this season. Was changed last season. Safety B, it's a little bit hard to build all of your Pierce and also still build your damage with also having survivability until the end game. Overall B, speed B as well. You'd like to be telestomping, but with the current budget, it was hard to bring it to that point where it's telestomping and not dying. So that's just something to remember. Cobra over here performed very well on a relative budget. Again, martial arts killers, Venom Claws on the swap, and Dariel's a Mirage or a J-Talon or both for your claws, for your main claws, that is, till you get the really good crafted or whatever claws that you're going to use for your main thing. Again, performed very, very well, very strongly, almost performed at the S tier speed, but left a little bit more stragglers than Fists of Fire. From my experience, could be a skill issue, I'm not sure. But I've tried I think 6 maps or something on Cobra, and overall it performed well. I was pretty happy with it overall. It wasn't changed, just didn't have enough time for it last season. So that's why I made time for it this season. Now for Endgame Mappers for the Assassin class. Look at that long list of Endgame Mappers. So we got Wake of Fire. I put it in the S+ tier. It did manage to post some insane times. I tested it in single player after that with a few setups as well, both with dual claws and with a shield claw setup, and it did really, really well. Very, very strong build for sure. I consider it an A+ tier last season, and I was, you know, enlightened to how stronger it was than I thought. And I'm definitely very, very impressed with how it is right now. Gear costs are not even that high, which is pretty cool. Safety here, it's an A. Again, you're relying on either Leech from Blade Shield and or Phoenix on swap. It's kind of like up to you to decide like how you want to do it. You can approach it in a lot of different ways. You can also have some auras either from Metal Grid or from Mercenary. There's a lot of different options. But generally speaking, this is fairly solid build for the S+. Again, joining Poison Strike and Poison Nova, it's within the range of these kind of like GG builds in terms of speed. I was a little hesitant to give it the S+, but I'm kind of like trusting videos of other people that I've seen push this build. Like I believe Real John posted a really good video for it, from what I remember. So shouts to them. Hopefully I'm not getting the name wrong. Pray to God. So yeah, that's why it's in the S+. Fists of Fire I managed to test myself, both in the beta and on live version. It's incredibly powerful, and there's another build that usually gets compared to Fists of Fire that I think a lot of the Sin community considers better than Fists of Fire, or at least some people there do. But overall, I think this build is incredibly safe. I have a showcase here. It was not really changed. It's been incredibly powerful for so many seasons in a row. And yeah, as long as it's not nerfed, people should definitely play it. It's very, very strong. Blades of Ice, a slightly weaker version of this, but is definitely cheaper. And it's a very nice build. It's a very chill build. Pun not intended. I apologize. Similar to Claws of Thunder, they all kind of perform the same. Generally speaking, just Fist of Fire being slightly stronger in the overall performance, just because the fire version is just better. Okay, it's a little bit better. What can I say? I don't make up the rules. I just test, and that was the results. We got Blade Dance Fizz. We got gear costs very high. Didn't have a lot of these very highs on this tier list. Just the clause for Blade Dance Fizz goes for so much. It did... yeah, I got the notes for it here. So again, safety A, speed A. Doesn't use Tiger Strike anymore, so less AoE overall, but they buffed damage from Claw and Dagger Mastery because you get now the improved critical strike from it. So again, overall, a slight damage buff, so it's easy to reach the point where you're one-shotting things, but the AoE is smaller, so that's kind of like something to take in mind. I considered it an S tier last season once you get all the crazy gear for it. Now I consider it kind of like an A tier. Slightly lower because of the lower AoE. It seemed to leave a little bit more stragglers, a little bit less consistent in hitting everything on the screen. Probably a change for the best, honestly. It was very powerful compared to a Whirlwind on Barbarian, so I'm pretty happy with that overall. We got Mind Blast here. Mind Blast, safety S, incredibly safe build. I leveled this to 99 in solo. I have a lot of experience on this build. I really like it. It's very fun to play. The gear costs are fairly average compared to a lot of Sin builds. Doesn't require facets. A lot of the gear is pretty common. I used it with dual Mirages. I like them more. They keep you safe. That's extra summons to teleport with you. They cast with you, and they're good company. I put the speed in A+ because I think this build is an S tier, but it's just hard to bring it to S tier during the beta, and also because you know, it needs a lot of FCR and other plus skill slams to get there. From my experience, again, in previous seasons, it is an S tier build, but just based on the tests during the beta, it's hard to show that. Death Sentry, I tested during the beta. Gear costs are pretty high, and it's a lot of investment for a pretty off-meta build. I have a guide from it last season. I tested it this season. It got a slight buff in Fire Blast, doing two more, you know, not projectiles, kind of like 2 more bombs added to it by level 27. It leads to corpse creation consistency being improved because we use the Fire Blast to create corpses using our summons. They basically cast Fire Blast and you cast Death Sentry. This is at least the setup that I use. So this build slightly got buffed. In the beta, I managed to do sub 5 minute mapping pretty consistently. And in last seasons, I managed to do it too. And that's in the beta, without slams. So again, I think this build is great. I think it's very strong. Maybe a little bit of a hidden off-meta sleeper kind of build for some people to kind of enjoy. Next is Multi-Shot Venom Sin. This is my beloved build from last season. I rated it safety in C because, I mean, I leveled this to level 98 in solo and then played like some of level 99 in solo. It is very hard to build safety on this build without investing insane amounts into it. There's something to take into account if you do want to keep up the speed with telestomping, like I was using D-Flight to move with it. So kind of important to tell here to kind of let people know. I wouldn't play this on HC the way that I played it on softcore for sure. Even if I didn't die, you know, it is still dangerous. But yeah, just keep those things in mind, I guess. Speed-wise, we managed to do very good times on it. Back then, it wasn't changed, so I didn't really feel the need to test it again. The gear costs are very high, though. They can get very high. The only saving grace for them is that they use poison facets, which are normally cheaper, but they do need a lot of good gear to get everything working, and they need the gear for the build to function properly. Like, it doesn't work super well with like janky gear put together. So that's kind of like just for the sake of honesty for this build. Despite how much I love it, I just want to keep it real on this one. Phoenix, this is the build that gets compared to Fist of Fire pretty often, and I've been told several times that this build is better than Fist of Fire, and I have a very simple argument as to why I don't think so. So basically, Phoenix has in potential better AoE and like screen clear consistency than Fist of Fire. The downside of Phoenix is that it requires you to actually pay attention to what you're doing, and Fist of Fire doesn't. And that's why I think Fist of Fire is better. You can play it on autopilot and post super good times. And I think when players play the game, they don't like super min-max every single action that they do. If you do, maybe Phoenix will be an S+ for you. But honestly, while I also loot and also do other things, for me, Fist of Fire felt more consistent. I say felt, it posted better times in terms of averages. So that's why I consider Fist of Fire better. I think it's more friendly towards players who are less experienced with the build. And if you're already experienced with the build, you really don't need my tier list. You can play whatever you like. So that's why I consider Fist of Fire better overall. And again, I played both builds, not to the same degree. I played more Fist of Fire overall, but I definitely had better times on it in general. All right, for the next build, we got Kick. I made sure to notify here. Kick runs fortified maps. Fortified maps were buffed, so Kickson is buffed. Kick is a pretty safe build overall. Once you get out of the beta, it can even be safer than that because you can craft some crazy safety armors with a lot of high enhanced damage. The speed on it is great. It posts really good times. I don't think it makes it to the S plus tier, but maybe with the buffs to fortified maps it does. Again, I don't think so, but we will see in the next season, I guess. It does require more testing. I didn't have time for it. Blade Fury, again, is fine once you get the full setup of gear. The gear costs can be pretty high. We have a Blade Fury demonstration from last season. Wasn't really changed since. Again, the build can feel a little bit janky till you get like the full pierce and all of your damage built. It can be a little bit hard, but it definitely has potential. And I know at least 2 people who built it in Season 12 and did pretty well with it. We got Blade Dance Poison. Again, fell from the S tier in my perception, mostly due to the AoE being nerfed and not using Tiger Strike anymore. The gear costs are still very low. It's still fairly safe, not like a dangerous build to play. And overall a good build. Not a bad build, not dead, just slightly nerfed from the S tier, which is fine. Being nerfed from S tier to A tier is okay. Alright, for Cobra, we tested it last season and didn't manage to make a video for it. We tested it this season, finally did manage to make a video for it. I'll make sure to upload it as well. Again, pretty safe. You have built-in leech into the skill, which is nice, and also posts very good times into your freeze. Fairly good build. All the martial arts builds are fairly good. At the minimum, they're fairly good. That's what you should know. Alright, for Tier 2 Bossing, we got Blade Sentinel. We tested it during the beta, even though I don't love playing the skill. Nerfed, still strong, feels good to play. I don't think it's I wouldn't say necessarily it's an OP bosser, but every season I say it's not an OP bosser, and then we find out that it's still kind of like in the top. I don't know if that means it's, if this change means that it's not OP. I'm not experienced enough with Blade Sentinel. I asked 3 different players who do play this build, and they said that the build is definitely nerfed, but they said it last season too, and they still used it the season afterwards. Like, it was still popular, it was still one of the most used, or the most used build for bossing overall, and it performed very well even after the big buff to bosses. So overall, I think this build will still be fine, still be in the top tier of bossers, possibly in the top 3 or the top 5. I didn't make like a tier list for those, like a more specific tier list for bossers. So again, I still think it'll be in the top. Declone feels amazing. Raphma and Lucian feel good. For Mind Blast Bossing, again, I did it in season 11, I think, right? Season 11 or 10, one of those. Performs well. I tested it afterwards as well. I still think it's good. Difficulty, medium. You get very juiced out fade that really helps you during the fight. You get tanks to tank for you. Min gear costs, medium. I consider them not as demanding as some builds. We got Fists of Fire, a little bit less safe because you're a melee build, but overall does very good damage. Just like straight out damage is very good. Lucian felt very nice on Fists of Fire. Safety, B again, mostly due to being a melee, with like not the biggest health pool, but overall pretty good. Difficulty medium, not too challenging, but you do have to be pretty on your toes because you're a melee build. Min gear cost pretty high. It's facets and all sorts of things like that. So the min gear costs go pretty far. As for Cobra, I haven't had enough experience on it on Raphma and Lucian. I did test it on Declone. Feels pretty good overall. I don't know to what extent, again, the poison bossing is getting buffed. So I can't tell if it's going to be better than that or just that or even better than I think. I consider it hard. Again, mostly because I tried these two and it was difficult for me, but it could be just a skill issue, could be just like more trendy towards medium, and I just didn't play this build good enough and proc the wrong charges at the wrong times. That could happen. For fire traps are for Declone only as far as I know. I didn't manage to do Lucian. I didn't have the time to try it, but as far as I know, you only do Declone with it. It's fairly good for Declone. It's fairly safe. You just kind of run around and place your traps and just wait for it. It's a very long fight, which is definitely making it so you can make more mistakes, but there's not a lot of mistakes to make on this build. Same with lightning traps. They play pretty similarly now. At the beginning, it feels like lightning traps is better, but overall, I didn't feel like it. Fire traps deals with the waves. The Skelly is better. Lightning traps seem to be doing a little bit better damage to Declone overall. So that was kind of like my experience. Yeah, overall I considered this hard, mostly because you kill the skeleton slower. Killing skeleton slower is a little bit more scary than killing declone slower in my opinion. It could be just my bias. Damage buffs overall feel great, and can definitely do tier 2 clone on it. Gear requirements low on both. They don't require a ton to get going. Alright, final class. We're finally getting there. Damn, this video has been so long. Alright, let's sprint through it. Alright, we got Power Strike and normal into decoys on in Nightmare and Hell. This was the approach I recommended in the past. I don't think it changed. It was nerfed, but overall still strong. For early farming, we got some Lightning Strike, decoys on, and Magic Arrow. 3 different builds, one from each skill tree. For Lightning Strike, Arcane, Cows, both feel great. I use an Act 2 defensive merc. Some people use the Act 1 meditation merc or the Act 1 vigor merc. You can use whatever you like. I like her with the Act 2 defensive. I like having somebody who tanks with me. It got slight damage buffs, feels a little bit better than last season. We got a decoys on over here. So decoys on, still viable, still can do keys, still can do Ubers even. Farms a bunch of different places. Chaos Sanctuary still felt okay. And overall pretty good. Again, slightly slower than it used to be. I considered it an A before. Now just a B, but not D, not F, not anything dead. Magic Arrow, I did this in my HCSSF version as well, farming with both of these builds. Didn't get changed. Very solid build, very consistent in getting its damage. Using either Act 1 Vigor, Act 2 Defiance, both kind of work. And farming mostly Chaos on this, but you can farm Corrupted Zones. You are doing magic damage, so you're pretty versatile in what you can do. Onwards to early bossing. So we have here a bunch of options. We have decoys on. For Ubers is a solid option. Still does well. Still recommended for your first Ubers in my opinion. Pretty solid option. We got Declone here. Declone is a kill that I used to do back in season 11. I think that's the kill that I did on Zon runs. Season 11, maybe season 10 too when I tested. I don't recommend to do it anymore. It got a D here. D is generally things that I don't super recommend to do, especially for beginners. Again, it's doable, but it requires more. Significantly nerfed on the early game. I have here a demonstration of Ubers and Declone. The Declone, again, is from previous seasons, so now it's a lot harder. Explosive Arrow over here, great for Ubers once you get a little bit more gear. For Declone, feels very, very nice. I did this in my HCSSF. This was the first build I killed Declone with. Pretty budget gear as well there. So you can got Declone tier 0 on Explozon. Safety B, you play from a range. I did this in hardcore, so it's pretty safe. Difficulty, medium. Gear requirements, medium. For Plague Zone might be buffed in bossing. We don't know how buffed at the moment, or I don't know at least. Ubers doesn't feel great with it. Declone feels pretty okay. It is very safe, very nice for HC. I've done this skill in season 11, I believe, and in season 12. So again, fairly good. It's very easy, doesn't require a lot. You just kind of play from a big range and try to stay within the range where Declone takes damage. Gear requirements, they're high only because you need either a Venom Rune Ward or I forget the name of the javelin, the poison javelin, or get a nice crafted or rare javelin. You just need a good weapon pretty much to get going, and Mal is a lot more in terms of currency than everything else here, so that's why it's a high. In terms of the requirements, Magic Arrow, got a B for Ubers and B for Declone. You can do it. It is doable. We've demonstrated it in the closed beta. Safety wise, it is fine. You don't really have a lot of tanks, but you play from pretty far range and you get Pierce on it, so you kind of kill all the ads pretty consistently. I put hard here in difficulty. I do think it might be because I just suck with the skill, just a lack of experience. So it might be better than what I experienced it as, but that was my experience after all. Magic damage might be buffed in bossing. I don't know how much, so just a note here. Jabazon, Uber C, you're a melee with low HP, so not the most recommended. Declone B, it's you're still a melee with low HP, but you do good damage there. For difficulty, medium, and the gear requirements, medium. Jabazon, I have a demonstration here. Damage buffs seem good overall. And Lightning Bolt, this was one of the bigger surprises for me during the closed beta. For Ubers, wasn't amazing, but for Declone, it was actually incredibly powerful. I even done a tier 1 kill on a pretty low budget with this build. Safety B, you play from a range, it feels pretty good. You kill the skeletons pretty fast. Difficulty was easy. Definitely for first time that I ever tried it, it was incredibly good. Damage buffs felt pretty good. I don't know why we even tried it. I just thought it would be interesting to try, as having it kind of like as a side bosser to the Lightning Fury build since they share synergies. So I just thought it would be cool. And then we kind of like went down that rabbit hole of bossing with Lightning Bolt, which ended up being a lot more, a lot better than I thought it would be. Alright, for cheap mappers, we got Summon Zon, still good. Usually at this, should say Summon Zon plus Strafe. Plus Strafe. Summon Zon and Strafe, still good, even with the nerfs, slight nerfs from last season. Your Strafe still does great damage, you still clear up stuff, and considering the fact that you loot while your summons do damage, this build does keep up with speed if you consider looting on top of everything. So definitely still a solid build. Very safe build. You got your summons tanking for the most part. Skill is Even Bane. I like to play with an Enigma. You can play with other like items to make it even cheaper. The Enigma is not a must. Mostly like a preference for me, and it's allowed within this budget. Jab and Fend, again for mapping, not insane, not super good. You need a good Stone Raven to get going, and the Jewels and the Zod for the F Stone Raven. It doesn't have to be an F1, but ideally it is, just because it's a lot of damage, so I might as well invest in a good Stone Raven. You don't really need anything else. It's just a weapon for this build, and Stone Raven is normally the best one. Technically, there is Resolve that gives you Joust, performed a little bit faster in maps, but you're not going to boss with it. And if you are playing Jab and Fend, ideally you're also bossing, so you might as well have one weapon for all setups and not have different weapons. That's why I'm recommending Stone Raven here. But yeah, slight buffs, proper splash on Fend now. I feel pretty okay. We got Lightning Strike, got Safety B, Speed B. Not super fast, not super crazy. You can run Infinity, skill is T-Stroke. I tested it without the Infinity, still did pretty well. You got a video here from previous seasons as well. But overall, slight damage buffs, nothing too crazy. Overall, stayed about the same. We got Magic Arrow. I used this in my SSF HC run. I believe this is a video from there. Yep, it is. Again, ideally with Enigma, Magic, Large Arms, and a Melody Rune Word. I don't have an Enigma in this video, so yeah, it's a little bit slower than that, but you have here Speed at S tier. Managed to post really good times on this budget in the closed beta. So overall, really good build on a budget. And I know there's other builds on a budget. I just, you know, not all builds are going to be here. I couldn't test everything. Only things that I wanted here are actually here. For Endgame Mappers, we got Fire Arrow. Fire Arrow actually only Amazon build I allowed into the S tier. There is a slight change in Fire Arrow, and it's not this change that was emphasized. So Fire Arrow now leaves small fire patches, but that's not important. The actual buff I felt for Fire Arrow, and it's a general buff to Amazon on Evade. Evade no longer has a cap on its like movement speed, which means you do run a little bit faster, which I generally like. It's the change that I was asking for. If people who watch like my older videos in terms of like wish list, things I want, I always say like I just want Zon to run faster. That's all I really want, all I really care about. I just want it to run faster so she feels more competitive with caster builds who kind of teleport around. Zon has terrible teleport frames, caster frames. So I always like built an Enigma on her, and I always was annoyed that I'm building an Enigma because it felt terrible, but it still managed to get good times. So finally, it doesn't feel like we need to run it anymore. I played a lot of Fire, a lot more than I planned at least during the closed beta, and I was really happy with its times. Without slams, I managed to get very consistent 5-minute maps on Fire Arrow. So again, very happy with what it can do. Safety, I put it B, still pretty fragile. I'm sure that on live version, when you have like more slams and more like better charms and all that, you'll be a little bit safer. Build is very expensive, of course, because all fire facets and all that. And good slams, but it is what it is. Pretty fun build for an Amazon. If you do want to go with top tier Amazon build, I would recommend this in my opinion. We got Cold Arrow. Cold Arrow got an A+. It didn't quite keep up with the speed of Fire Arrow in my tests. It was slightly slower on almost all of my tests in a pretty consistent way, so that's why I give it an A+. But it did almost keep up with it. So again, it is also a little bit cheaper from my tests. I ran Ice bow for it, not Pus Spitter. Not a big Pus Spitter fan. I think the best options are generally either like going with Ice because it's very cheap because you don't need as many facets, or going with a crafted bow. That will be kind of like your end game. So both of them are good. Choose whichever one you want. I think this one is with the Ice bow and the new quiver, not quiver, the bolts Frozen Sorrow from Season 12. Very fun. I played this again on my HCSSF. Pretty solid. I don't know if this is a link to that or a link to something else. I'm not sure. We got here Magic Arrow. Super low gear cost. We managed to do pretty solid times on it on a pretty low gear. It's fairly safe. Again, pretty good. I used an Enigma on it to kind of telestomp with some Valkyries, and it performed very well that way. I'm sure that you can run with it too. I'm not sure which one is better now, but I used to teleport with it, and you can see it over here in this video. We got Crackle Shot, a Strafe, and I really wanted this build to be a little bit better. It got several buffs this season, both to its flat damage and also buffs to the procs being better. So Lightning Fury and Lightning Bolt both got damage buffs. So overall damage buffs to this build. The problem with this build is not really the damage, it's more like the consistency. I said this last season. I think it's a good build overall. We managed to do pretty consistent sub 6 minute mapping, which is not bad. It's very good. And I wanted to put it in A tier. The reason it's not an A tier is more like a personal problem that I have with builds that have problems with consistency. And when you're not getting the procs because the chances are too low to proc, it's kind of like it makes it sometimes and like, you know, feel bad. I don't like builds that are inconsistent. I still think this is one of the coolest builds Amazon has. I feel like if I would be forced to play Amazon, I'd probably play Crackle Shot Zon. I think it is kind of cool as a build, but I wish the chances was slightly higher. I repeat myself from last season. I wish the chances were slightly higher. Even if you lower the damage on it, like you can lower the damage, make the skills like lower level, just make the consistency of the procs higher. I feel like I'd be a lot happier that way. Let me know what you think, people who are interested in Crackle Shot. I do think it's a really cool build. It's very off meta for people who enjoy these kind of builds, so definitely try that out if you do want to. And again, it doesn't have bad times. 6 minutes or lower for maps, for tier 3 maps is definitely okay. There's nothing to be ashamed in that. I just wanted the build to feel consistent. Explosive Arrow, very nice build. I have an Explosive Arrow guide from last season. It wasn't really changed. I said possibly buffed and fortified. I didn't have the time to test it, sadly, but possibly buffed in fortified maps. I don't normally run fortified maps on it, but it might be worth trying just to see how it does there. With the changes to fortified velocity, so now you move faster there, and then maybe you drop the Enigma, get more damage, and you one-shot stuff in one-shot or two-shot stuff in fortified maps. Definitely worth trying out for people who are interested in explosive Zon. We got some Zon with Strafe over here. Gear costs are fairly low. Is still very nice. There's a slight nerf until later endgame. Again, from what I looked at, it looks like in the endgame it's pretty much the same as it used to be, and it was still fine last season, so I consider it still okay now. Fairly safe build, very nice. Someone's on guide over here. I'm sure there's other ways to play this too. I know several people who put a lot of time into this build. They play it every season. They say it's very good, and they demonstrated it as well. We got Lightning Strike over here, A, B in speed. Your walking build doesn't do insane single target damage. I don't think you can run fortified on this build, at least not from what I saw. It is pretty safe, like you can build a lot of tankiness on it pretty naturally. Gear cost fairly medium. You're not required as much as in other facet heavy builds, even though you are buying some facets. And yeah, we got a guide for it over here. Light Fury, I believe I uploaded a Lightning Fury guide today, and if not, it's going to come out in a few hours. But yeah, Lightning Fury performed very well. I'm giving it an A+ during the beta, mostly because it's hard to test the endgame of the build. It's a build that really relies on some slams that it really needs. So again, I don't know if it will make it quite to the S tier, but it definitely feels a lot better. The damage consistency feels amazing for single player. It's a problem I used to have with the skill before. It just felt like not very consistent, left a lot of stragglers that I wasn't happy with. So yeah, it definitely feels a lot better now. We managed to do very consistent times with it, some sub 5 in shorter layouts, and some slightly over 5 in the longer layouts. Definitely a solid mapping build in season 13 for people who like Lightning Fury. Definitely the time to enjoy it. And we got multi-shot, and it's the only one that got the too high ranking on the gear costs. In my opinion, multi-shot is like just a build that if you like it, you'll play it, and anything that I will say will never change your mind. It requires a lot of investment to get a good bow that actually one-shots, or at most like 2 shots. A lot of people use Wind Force, and Wind Force has terrible minimum damage, which makes it, in my opinion, pretty awful, even if it has good frames. So again, I'm not a big fan of this build. It's a lot of big investments. It's very expensive to get going, but people like it. It's comfortable for people to play. So I'm not here to tell you not to play what you like. Just that I think it's too expensive for what it does and for how safe it is. That's just my opinion. In the notes I just added here, the damage seems to be more volatile now since it relies more on crit and less on consistent damage. Overall this season it got damage nerfs to its like ED scaling on the skill, but it got more damage from crit. So overall, again, I don't know if it's the same or slightly more damage. That's what it looked like to me. But the damage is more volatile, which is important to know. That was the 7th class. Oh, sorry, no, we have tier 2 bossing on Zon. Sorry, just me trying to get rid of Zon as fast as I can. Good one. So yeah, tier 2 bossing on Zon. We got Plague Javelin, S tier in declone was always S tier in declone. Poison bossing is buffed in season 13. I don't know by how much, but either way, it was a great build for declone. We got Raphma and B tier and Lucian in B tier for different reasons. Raphma, the only reason it's in B tier is because the projectile size can sometimes miss Raphma. I've done this skill in the past. It can be pretty frustrating when you're throwing the javelin and it just absolutely misses Raphma. So that's the only reason why it's in B tier and not like an A. Lucian has a different problem where you can get overwhelmed sometimes, which is pretty scary on the Plague Javelin, so just something to keep in mind. But overall, can do all 3 bosses. Not super recommended on Lucian or Raphma, but still pretty solid, unless the poison buff the poison buffs are very good. We got Jabazon. Jabazon is looking to be the top 1 bosser in my opinion for season 13. Again, I normally say very openly which ones I think are like the best ones. Last season I said it's Summon Druid, and I meant it, I played him. The season before that I said it was Small Bear, I meant it, I played him. I don't love playing Amazon, so I'm probably not going to play Jabazon, but I do think she's probably the top 1 for season 14 for everything that I looked into. She looks very, very strong in all bosses. Her damage is greatly buffed, feels very, very nice. It got nerfed in the beta. It still feels incredibly strong. The only reason it's safety B is mostly because she has a relatively lower health pool. But it's very easy. You just hold the right click, you punch, 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 and things die. Minimum gear costs, I put it at medium, mostly because you just need like the F Stone Raven, the Zod, and the jewels. But otherwise, you're pretty much good to go. We got explosives on. I did the tier 2 declone kill with pretty budget gear on my SSF HC run. Again, I was super surprised with how well it performed, and again, it's not like this skills level, but definitely very strong. I also did Raphma and Lucian later on, and they were also like, they were definitely challenging, but definitely doable on this build, so definitely a strong option to go for with the explosives on if you like playing this build already. And we got Lightning Bolt, the build that we tried earlier in the beta. I tried on budget to do tier 1 and managed to do it. I very much believe that it can do tier 2 clone. I just didn't have not the time, and I don't think it's something you want to do without slams, generally speaking. So again, I think on live version this will perform pretty well in declone. I don't think it's good for Raphma and Lucian, but again, I haven't managed to test it enough. I did test Lucian, but I haven't managed to test it enough to tell if it's like doable or not. For Raphma as well, I didn't have the time to test, so a little bit of a question mark there. Put here, not great for Lucian. Raphma requires more tests, so well, maybe in the future if we have the time. Alright, final category. We're pretty much done with the classes, and this is just builds that I have missed. So we got a list of builds here that I wanted to look into, or that I hope that in the future I could look into. There's some reasoning to why I didn't look into them. So we got Double Thunderstorm Sorc. This is where your Merc wears a Skyfall and you cast Thunderstorm. I didn't have the time to test it properly in maps. I did test it in LOD. It performed pretty well for passive farming. For people who like the idea of just passive farming in LOD, it seemed to be doing okay. Firebar Sorc with Hellrack. It's something that I've kind of talked about last season in the closed beta. Somebody suggested that I test it. It was a cool idea. The main problem with it is that it relies on getting an IS corruption on the Hellrack to reach kind of like that super high FPA on the Bear Sorc. In theory, it sounds really strong. I just couldn't test it, and I didn't find the time to test it on the live version. So that's why I didn't do it. Endless Hail, a build that was always kind of okay. I find the change to Ice Barrage to be a nerf overall compared to casting Blizzard, so that's why I have less interest in it than last season, so I didn't test it. But overall, it's like a fine build. It used to be okay, and now it's kind of like slightly worse in my opinion. We got Paladin, FOH. We tested FOH quite a bit in budget and a little bit in endgame. I wasn't happy with the changes it got. I didn't have the time to test it after the second round of buffs, but it got damage buffs. And I don't think the problem with the skill is like the damage on it. It's just I think design-wise it doesn't work very well. So that's why I think FOH is not a very good skill. I wouldn't really recommend mapping with it or farming with it in general. That's at least my perspective. Blessed Hammer, it's hard to test Blessed Hammer in the beta. It relies on corruptions quite a bit, so that's why we didn't test it. It's not on the tier list. I didn't have the time to make one in the actual season. New shield looks cool. The new shield, the ephemeral shield, looks cool for Blessed Hammer. It's a nice new option, so definitely a nice for Blessed Hammer enjoyers. We got Bear Pally, same problem with the Sorc Bear. Relies on IS corruptions to reach the breakpoints. Again, I've tried it in the past. This build I actually did try in a live season, but I didn't have enough recordings of it that can actually like say something very conclusive on it, so I didn't have like anything here that I wanted to rank. Venge Bossing, I didn't have the time to test it, but there's like this one guy who swears it's really good for Lucian. You know who you are. Again, I just didn't have the time to test it. I know that it's doable with Lucian. I just didn't have enough info to rank it. Assassin, Chain Lightning Traps, I tried it in maps. I tried it in budget, of course, you saw it earlier. I tried it in maps, but not enough for anything conclusive. In addition, it relies on slams or good Chain Lightning Claws that I couldn't really get during the beta. So that's why it's not ranked in terms of mapping. I'm not saying that it's bad. I do think that it's worse than Wake of Fire pretty significantly, just as general information, but I don't know exactly where it stands right now. Blade Sentinel Venom, despite the nerf, still seems to be performing very well in other people's tests. I watched other people's videos and reviews of the skill. This is a skill I was never that into using Blade Sentinel, Venom Fizz, whatever. I just don't like the skill so much, so it's hard for me to test it because I'm not super informed on it. I'm not very interested in learning about it. You know, everybody has their like 1-2 weak points where I just don't care about this kind of vibe, and that is one of mine, Blade Sentinel. So I'm sorry for the people who are super interested in it. You'll have to seek help from someone else on this skill, but there's plenty of very informed people on the Discord that hopefully can help you. Next, we got the Amazon. We've got the Crackle Bear. This is a build that I've tried to test last season. It has, again, a need of IS slam on your Crackle shot. Because in the beta we don't have slams, it's a little bit hard to test and still not lose damage. Again, difficult to test, but definitely interesting build. That could be pretty good. It definitely got buffed because of the procs getting buffed, so I was kind of interested in seeing it. We had Plague Javelin Mapping. I did that in season 11. I don't like playing Plague Javelin in maps. I don't recommend it. I don't think it's good. But I mean, other people can test it if they think it's particularly fine. I'm sure that other people can vouch for it. Personally, I think it's awful experience, and I would never do it again, not even to test it. I did a 99 level 99 Plague Javelin Amazon. So I have quite a lot of experience mapping on this, and it was pretty awful. We got Strafe Is. I didn't have the time to test pure Strafe. I only tested Strafe with summons. But Strafe budget with Demon Machine seems to be performing pretty well. I don't see a reason for it to be much nerfed compared to previous seasons, despite the changes to Demon Machine and to Strafe. We got Barb over here. We're really close to the end, guys. Don't worry. My voice is maybe going to make it all the way through. So we got Concentrate. I tried it for a little bit. Not enough for anything conclusive. Post-fort maps buff, it will feel better. But the change to fortified maps happened a little bit too late for me to actually go over it. Next, we got Zeal Barb Bosser. Actually did add that to the list, so this can actually be removed. I was working on this through the week, so some notes here are outdated. We got Wolf Barb Mapping. Was slightly worse than Bear. I ended up testing Bear more. I made a guide for it as well. Wolf Barb mapping is probably okay, but I just, yeah, I say here it's okay. I just didn't have enough time to give it a proper rank because I didn't run enough maps on it. So I consider this like inconclusive testing. Leap, I tried Leap, and after the Crushing Blow nerfs or fixes, really it was, it didn't feel very good. I didn't like playing it. I didn't like the proc versions. I don't think it's particularly good. Leap has an AoE issue. It has damage issues, has a lot of issues, and at the moment I don't find the skill very good. If people enjoy it, they can of course play it, but I wasn't very happy with it. Rupture version of the proc leap got buffed. You get like 47% lower resist now on Rupture, but still I don't think that's enough to make it good. Over here we got the Necro, the last class that I have notes for here. Desecrate, I tested what was added here? I don't know why there's two Desecrates here, forgive me. I tested Desecrate for budget mapping in the past, and it feels fine, but only as what I play before Nova Strike is good. So basically it was kind of like a placeholder skill they only use until your actual skill starts working, until you have the gear for it. That was kind of like my approach for Desecrate. It's kind of like an in-between thing. With the improvements to Corrupted Zones, I think you can farm using Poison Strike and Poison Nova without having to rely on Desecrate. As a skill, I don't think mapping with it should be a thing. You can use it in maps, but it's not like particularly good. It just does fine. If you are bossing on Desecrate, that's like your main spec. Again, I still think you can use Poison Nova because they have the same synergies, but you can map with it on the side if you're just bossing and you want just like a side job of mapping with Desecrate. So just kind of like the general note. And we have here mages and late game mapping. I didn't have the time to test it, but I did the budget version. They look decent. I'm assuming they scale nicely into the end game. I didn't have enough test runs on them. That's why they're not appearing in my late game, end game budget mages category. All right, that's it for the tier list. That's everything that I have, at least. And it took quite some time to put this together while doing all the tests, all the recording, all the guides. I know the community kind of enjoys raving over tier lists. I enjoy making them too, so I don't mind. I enjoy the process, and it helps me kind of sort my thoughts and kind of understand more the information that I'm pulling together. And it's nice to just let loose and just just write your opinions in a big sheet. Again, shout out to Goon for helping me reorganize the tier list and make it look nice and clean, so people can read it and it will be a lot more presentable. Big shout outs, thank you, I appreciate it. And yeah, thank you all for watching, for going through this 2 weeks of beta testing with me. It would be hard to do it without people kind of supporting me from all sides, giving me information, asking me questions, kind of pushing me to explore more about this game that we all love so much. The beta is going to be starting very, very soon. The time right now is probably like 5 a.m. over here for me. So I think it's like 13 hours till the game actually launches when I finish recording this, which is awesome. I'm very, very excited for Season 13. There's going to be super exciting changes coming up, and I hope we all get to experience like a very nice season start and a very blessed RNG. With all that said, thank you so much for watching today's video. I know it's been very long. I wish everyone a happy Season 13. Have a good whatever you're having, and I'll see you on the servers. Bye, bye, bye.